hip-hop shit.
Hey, yo, what's the name of that show?
On some hip-hop shit.
Where nerd culture collides with hip-hop.
Tell them it one more time.
On
Some hip-hop shit.
The strength of a Jedi's in the code that we live.
You ain't heard about us. We on some hip-hop shit. Underground, whether not this thing.
You want some hip hop shit cause your music like hypnotic.
The past is return of the Jedi. Stud-eyed under the mask. I feel good. Let the city of angels call me black.
A superhero in the flesh, even at my worst.
Meltdown Comics presents On Some Hip Hop Shit.
Welcome to On Some Hip Hop Shit from a nerd perspective. Welcome to On Some Hip Hop Shit.
Presented by Meltdown Comics and Collectibles.
On Some Hip Hop Shit is a weekly podcast where we delve into all kinds of stuff, but primarily the civilization of hip hop and comics culture.
Nerd culture.
Nerd culture, comic culture. What we mean by that is anything that has to do with animation, anime, nerdy pop culture,
Hip-hop,
cosplay, whatever. It's all fair game.
And usually it's on some hip hop shit.
Most def.
Yes, and we are broadcasting live from Meltdown Comics and Collectibles, Hollywood, California. B. Schultz, Brando Calrissian.
Boom.
How you doing, man?
Yes, I've been anointed
Yes.
by Mark Davis, who's to our left.
Oh, yeah.
Recurring guest.
Hi guys,
How you doing, Mark?
I'm chilling, man. A little tired, but you know, sake bombs. Or is this a sake bomb or what
No,
is
it's
this?
still, you
Just
need
a
the beer
sake?
for it to be a bomb.
Okay,
It's
all
just
right. Yeah,
Well, that-
put me on.
Yeah, well, there's another mystery voice because we have a very special guest, friends of Meltdown for years, Mr. Felipe Smith.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Not much. Just hanging out with you guys. About to get into some stuff. Getting into some hip hop shit.
Yeah, on some hip hop shit.
There it
So, real quick to educate Mark over here,
Thank you.
what are we drinking tonight? What do we call this segment, Brandon?
This is called Sippin' On. This is Sippin' On. Sippin' On.
What you sipping on? Sipping.
Sippin' On.
Yeah, someone educate me to the sake shit because I don't even know, man. I had it once. It was. I didn't really like it. I got to be honest, man.
All right, let's see.
But I heard so much about sake, but I never like it was cold. I didn't like cold sake, man. Someone put me on.
All right. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I don't know. I lived in Japan for 4 years. And this kind of
That is why we're having the sake, by the way, because it's to honor Felipe's Japan excursion.
But yeah, usually
Found in translation.
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's made from rice. I guess like the most popular kind. There might be other kinds of sake actually, but I think this one's definitely from rice. The other one, not too sure. I'm looking at it right now.
So what
How do you pronounce that?
It's actually sake. It's not sake.
Uh-huh.
That's how us Americans say it, but it's sake. And if you're in Japan, you would call it osake with an O first. Like a lot of things, it's part of the language. You add O to something like mizu means water, but you would say omizu. And, you know. So yeah, it'd be osake, but
Osaka.
yeah, but it's sake. If you say sake, it's like karaoke. It's actually karaoke, but
Right.
we call it karaoke, sake. We just like that E sound, I guess.
That lazy American. I mean, the lazy tongue of Americans. As someone who's multilingual, what's that process like? I mean,
What do you mean?
like when you come from another country, right?
Right.
And then you get fluent in English. You get fluent in their language.
Right.
But someone who speaks English can't even be bothered.
Oh, well, you know, I think, I mean, I had the advantage of growing up with both English and Spanish at home.
Right.
I was born in Akron, Ohio. Of all
Hey,
places.
I'm
Yeah.
from Ohio.
All right.
LeBron.
I'm originally Cincinnati, then
Okay.
Cleveland.
All right, cool.
I think Bron needs a comic, an authentic comic.
Wait, I think
gotta
he's probably had, hasn't he had
Yeah,
something?
he has something.
yeah, but you got to pull the Akron card, like,
Like, I got you, dog. I
got
didn't
you,
grow up
dog.
in Akron.
Right.
Know very little about it, but hey, I'll draw you, dude, like that.
Hey.
But yeah, I mean, I left when I was 5. I grew up in Buenos Aires, Argentina. My mom's Argentine. My dad's Jamaican. We all speak Spanish and English at home, so it's kind of weird coming back to the States for college at 18. I've been gone for 13 years. I was saying earlier, we're going to talk about hip-hop. I missed the golden age. I didn't know, I mean, everything, all the heavy hitters from the beginning, all the guys that really like set things off for everyone else and kind of set it up as a culture.
So what years were you gone then?
So I left in 83 and I came back in 96, 97.
Holy, yeah, that is, you just
Yeah,
missed,
no,
you
I
missed it.
missed, yeah, I missed it.
You missed
So, I
Fat
mean-
Boys, Run DMC.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All the way to Public Enemy. And,
Everything. I mean, the real Beastie Boys before like Sabotage and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, KRS-One, like all these guys, like I
Nas,
got back. Yeah.
Right.
I knew Tupac and Biggie. That's what played on MTV Latino in Argentina. And I was like, oh man, look at these guys.
Right.
And it wasn't even like their early stuff. It was like, you know, California Love for Tupac. That's already near the end, you know. And then for Biggie, it was Juicy. You know, so I mean, most of the stuff I didn't know. And I thought that was like dope as hell. And like, because, you know, there's just not really, there's practically a non-existent hip hop culture in Argentina. So
Did you go back and dig after, you know, after you realized what you missed?
well, you know what, man? Like, there's my buddies listen to all sorts of stuff, and like I grew up on rock and roll. I mean, I grew up like playing the drums, and you know, I learned to play the drums with like hair bands and like hard rock, like Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. So I mean, by looking at me, like you wouldn't be, if you saw what I listened to, you'd be like, what? What's this guy doing? You know,
Bad
Well,
Brains.
Fishbone, yeah. Bad
So it's like,
Brains.
But yeah, you know, I came back. I heard all
Get
sorts of
harder.
stuff, and then you know, like you get used to. I remember listening to Wu-Tang Clan, and I was like, how many people are on this track? Like, you know, like they all sounded different, and there's like 15 of them.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they're a big crew, man. It's the Wu-Tang. And I'm like, do they use the same beat for every single song, dude? And then that's when people wanted to beat my ass. But
So you're 18.
yeah.
You come back to the States.
I come back to the States and I go to Chicago of all cities. And Chicago is a very particular city.
Chi-Town.
Yeah. And it's pretty segregated. And I mean, I'm mixed. So I mean, like my mom's, you know, Argentine of Spanish and Italian descent. So I mean, she just looks like she's German. And my dad's Jamaican. So like being mixed in Chicago, sometimes they're like, you don't belong to any particular neighborhood. And the other thing with me was I spoke English, so people didn't know any better. That I'd culturally, like I'd missed a lot, you know, a chunk of my American history. So it was pretty interesting. People were like, "Where's this? What?" I remember I went to a Wendy's once, man.
I know it was cold.
Oh, it was
in
cold
Chicago
as hell.
compared to
The Windy City, man. And especially,
Argentina.
there you go. You know, our school was right next to the Lake Michigan. So it was the Loop, downtown Chicago, and like it got windy as hell. Like we had the whole chill factor from the lake.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
it's no joke that they
No.
call it the Windy City.
No, not at all. And I went there with my Argentine winter jacket. That was a joke. That's like some. It was super thin. My cousin's like, "You finna die, son? Like, you don't wear that?"
What are you
But
doing?
yeah, and I didn't wear any gloves because you never really had to wear gloves in Argentina in the winter.
Yeah.
And like I learned real quick, like my knuckles got chapped and cracked, and I was like, "Whoa!"
That's the
kid.
hawk. They call it that. That's where the hawk came from, right?
Mm-hmm.
They call it the hawk. Comes down from the lake and
off the lake.
cuts right through that jacket.
Yeah.
Go.
So I don't know. I forgot what your question was. I completely went.
No. So you're in
Oh,
Chicago.
oh,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
we got to get back to how you drink sake, but before that,
Right.
but go on. But we might as well get to Japan.
Good job, Adam. Keeping track.
I'm trying to remember.
I try to keep it on schedule, right?
But there's no schedule here.
Air traffic control.
Why is there no schedule? Because it's
well,
on some hip hop.
This is on some hip-hop. This is free flowing.
Just
Yeah.
live and off the you man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Get in
so
the
you
flow.
Chicago.
Yeah. So I went there.
You a Bulls fan?
Well, I was there when Bulls won everything.
Wow.
Pretty much. I mean, I was there from, 96, 97 to 2001. So,
That's
yeah.
magical.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was nuts. It was crazy. Our school was downtown on Michigan Avenue. And there was, I think it's Grant Park. Now things have changed. They got that big bean sculpture and they got like a whole different thing going on. But they were building that while I was in school. But they had Grant Park. I think that's the name. People from Chicago might be like, all right.
Yeah.
So we were right across from it. And I was TAing, or I was RAing for high schoolers during the summer thing. So I got like free room and board, and which was cool because we got kicked out of our other apartment. So I just transitioned right into and they were lining up after the game. The Bulls won, and so they were lining up a day in advance for like the Grant Park blowout with all everybody gets up on stage and they're popping bottles of champagne and they got music and all sorts of stuff going on. They had like DJs from local radio stations like B96 and whatever go there and they'd throw T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. But people would wait all night, and the dorms were right on Michigan Avenue, so we were looking out the window, and then we noticed that the people camped out, and there are already about 200 or so people camped out, and they saw us at the window, and I got long hair, and like from that far up, we were on like the 14th floor, so like people were like, "Take your shirt off!" Like they thought I was a chick, man. I'm like, "Yo, I'm a dude."
You had dreads back then?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've had them since I was 15, so and I'm 37 now, so I've had them for a while. But yeah, so I had a sign. I started writing signs. I'm like, "Yo, I'm a dude," and then people were like, "Oh," like you could see him down there, like clowning that guy. And then
that's funny.
So then we started writing stuff on the signs, like like Tony Kukoc, and then like people Tony Kukoc, and then like dude, it was crazy because we would write stuff on the signs and like just tell them to do stuff, and they would do it. And it was crazy because that moment I was like 19 at the time. And then like it got huge to the point where it's like 500 people waiting outside that had nothing to do until like 8 hours later the next day. So they're just bored sitting there. So like whatever we came up with, we were like doing like dances, waving our hands, and like everybody's waving them. I'm like, dude, like power.
Right.
Like it was crazy.
You're looking down on the people.
Oh,
too,
it was insane. Oh, and they like completely.
You're like the kingpin.
It was
or
crazy,
a master
man.
of ceremony.
There you go.
Move the crowd.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, but it
I
was
like
nuts,
that.
man.
Mm-hmm. So culture seems to be an interesting through line in your professional or your travels as a young man.
Yeah, it's also part of my work in comics. Definitely, always.
Nice. So take us to how you arrive in LA in the comic scene as a writer, artist,
or even then though before, like what were you doing art wise? I mean, how do you? Because you obviously didn't just arrive as something. You had to practice. I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've always liked to draw. As a kid in Argentina, I mean, by the time you're like 15 or so, like you don't watch cartoons or read comics anymore. It's kind of like there's other things you're interested in.
Talking about
girls, if you're into that, guys, if you're into that. But it was just kind of like it wasn't a big part of like you're a teenager, you're not really reading comics. So people mostly graduate from that kind of stuff early. So I never stopped liking to draw. But I definitely didn't really care about comics that much. So I kept drawing. I went to school in Chicago for fine arts.
Nice.
So that was like painting and drawing, sculpture. And actually comic books weren't considered art at our school, and animation wasn't either. So teachers were like, "Don't do that. That's garbage."
I had teachers tell me that shit too.
Yeah.
They told me I wouldn't. It was like you'll never be successful or you'll never make a living off of drawing cartoons. Like that was verbatim.
Wow. Well, you showed them
Right, I did.
real quick.
As we steal you away from DreamWorks for the podcast.
Hey man.
Oh, you're going back tonight anyway, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not going back there. I'm gonna work at home. But,
right.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you just gotta stick. You stick with it. You make your own path, man.
Yeah, it's animation, man.
Yeah.
That's how it is, man. You got any kind of professional endeavor when it comes to the arts. There's gonna be deadlines.
That's it.
I mean, if you're gonna pay bills with it, there's gonna be deadlines and headaches every once in a while,
and no sleep.
And no sleep. Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
I was talking to a friend, and he I had lunch with him, and he was saying, he was like, I stayed home for 9 weekends in a row to get this deadline done.
Oh yeah.
And then before I came out, then it was 7 weekends in a row.
Mm-hmm.
in a row. I was like, fuck. Can I curse on here?
Yeah, you
I just did.
You did
a few times.
and you did your episode, the Blockheads episode.
Was I cursing a lot?
Well, everyone else was.
It would be pretty fucked up if the comic book was if the podcast title was on some hip hop shit and you couldn't curse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Way to point out the obvious.
Some hip hop beep beep.
Yeah. But then we might come with that.
Actually, there was a discussion on whether we should call it the hip hop shit.
Oh, okay.
On some hip hop shit. Because of the shit.
Right.
We're like, this is the evening version. This is, you could tune into your Disney Click. Big up to Disney Click, which is a podcast on Meltdown Podcast Network. But this is the late night.
Yeah.
This is hip hop.
This is some grown folk stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. So getting to be a grown folk, you had to start off as a youth drawing. Chicago, are you drawing at that time?
Yeah. I went and I was, the biggest thing was my mom was like, hey, like, I want you to be a real artist. I want you to, do like real, things that matter and are beautiful and are in galleries and stuff. And I was like, all right. I didn't go to a trade school. I went to fine art school because I wanted to see what fine art was. It's like, well, what makes what I draw? At the time, I was really into Simon Bisley, so it was just like warriors with battle axes and just chopping dragons and goblins in half, like just dumb shit like that.
Are you also into comics at this time?
I'm into drawing, and
drawing.
I never read the comics. Like I would just look at them. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, you could kind of tell that from your work that it's coming from an original place.
True.
Yeah.
It is all original. That's
it's
a good
very
point,
distinctive.
man.
Oh, thanks, man. I strive to do something different and something personal. But yeah, definitely at that time, I wasn't into the stories. I didn't even want to read them. I just wanted to draw, and I figured, all right, I wanted to draw comics. I would just, draw what somebody else wrote. I just wanted to do the cool part, which was drawing.
Right.
And then I went to fine art school. I found out that like fine art is anything you want it to be, basically. You could take a dump in a bucket and it's going to be, that's art. That's an expression of you as a human being.
Yeah.
And as long as you can back it up with some kind of thematic and that's art.
I was at the Modern Art Museum in London. I don't even know the name, and it fucking sucked. I mean, I was like, my kids, and this is a story that you can always, you're right, you say that, but it's true.
Oh, it is.
You can really do whatever the hell you want and call it what you want.
Because that shit is a hustle. But a lot of these motherfuckers are getting away with murder.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I look at your guys' stuff, Mark, Felipe, I look at your stuff. To me, that's the shit. Good line work, good just what you guys do and how you guys express your artistic creativity is what I prefer.
Thank you, sir. We will pay you later.
Expect
a check in the mail.
No,
we got you.
Well, it's like 5 to 6 art pieces per page.
Yeah,
in the form of a panel, like
right.
But you know what? Ironically, right? Like for most of the people I went to school with, I ended up, my first 2 years, I was like some tortured young, 18, 19-year-old kid. Because I was like, I don't like anything. Like I got like super emo and shit. Like I was like, because, I took painting.
Yeah.
And, and then in painting, man, like there's people, they're super intense. They're all dressed in black and they just smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. And they're like, man, fuck the man and this and that. And, and I was like, I was there to learn. So I went there. I had like my experience in college. A lot of people, they ask, a lot of kids who want to be artists. Ask, hey, should I go to college? Should I spend all this money to learn? Do I need it? And the truth is, you don't need it. As long as you're learning and as long as you're picking up, just skills and information, you don't need to pay for it if you're good at doing that. Some people, it's good to have a teacher and somebody to expose you to all these things because you're not that good at seeking them out for yourself.
Right.
And then in that case, school is great because you go there, you take a course, you're like, hey, I wonder what it takes to be a fashion designer or a fashion illustrator or, a video editor or, and then you'll have a teacher. It's like, well, listen, if you can't do this, you're not going to do it. So do your homework, asshole. And you do it,
Let me,
go ahead.
Did I cut you off?
No,
I'm
not
sorry,
at all,
brother.
not at all.
Oh, so let me ask you this. So you studied fine arts, but do you think you needed to go to school for art?
I think what I learned from that school was definitely not my technical my draftsmanship and all that.
Because you learn
no.
that shit on your own.
No, yeah, and that's the one thing. It's like you learn from looking at stuff and practicing.
And,
that's the
and
biggest
just studying.
thing.
That's it.
And if you want to learn to draw, you just draw. And you don't need someone to tell you to do it.
No.
Tell yourself to do it and do it. The one thing I did take from this school, which I'm really glad I went to, is we had critiques after every assignment. And people would turn in pieces of cardboard with spit and gum and fucking bird shit on it, and then they would talk up a whole thesis on it for 20 minutes.
And that shit was
and they'd get an A. Well, there was no A, it was pass or fail. But they would pass. And and I saw a dude, he's like, help me out, man, stomp on this piece of cardboard and grab shit and just fucking let's fuck this piece of cardboard up.
And
this
have
is my
a
project.
story behind it.
Yeah, and then be like, this is society, and
that's the hustle.
We're all being trampled
hustle,
on
man.
by the man, and you see these specks of shit. Well, that's what life does to us, dude. As long as there's something you're expressing through what you're doing, that's art. And the thing is, that is a valid thing. And if somebody can feel that from your splashes of paint on a canvas, because the thing is, it could be splashes of paint. It could be a beautifully rendered, realistic scale sculpture of a woman or a man nude. I mean, it says anything to anybody. I mean, what makes some Degas ballerinas done in pastel more art than a gold-plated toilet with flowers growing out of it? Nothing, man. It's either you like it or you don't. And I learned that over there. And the biggest thing that I learned was, if I wanted to draw some stuff, I don't want to draw a fucking centaur with a machine gun and a fucking helmet. The teacher would be like, well, that's fine if you want to draw it. Why? What does this say to you?
What does it say to us? What's the reason?
And if you had a reason, he's like, well, fucking paint that centaur with his machine gun. But if there's no reason, he's like, well, you need to think this through a little more and figure out what you're going to tell your audience about yourself as an artist through this piece. And if you're saying something through it, then that is art. Right. And I did learn that. And as far as I'm concerned, everything I publish, I definitely put, my personality and the way I see things and my opinion on a whole bunch of things in the work. And I do it through dialogue and funny pictures and a lot of grotesque.
Badass bitches.
Right.
For sure.
But yeah, there's never really as crazy. You can flip through.
Which is interesting, by the way, because I want to get into that, because that is something that is amazing, which I think you did with Peepo-Chu.
Thank you, sir.
But you also went to work for Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't necessarily let people do what they want to do.
But that's where your craft comes as an artist, man.
Okay.
Oh yeah, dude. It doesn't matter.
Should we jump there or no? Should we wait?
No, I'm all up for time traveling
All
because we should. It would be great because when I remember Felipe, it's just this dude with his incredible amount of energy,
Hell
and
yeah.
passion, and man, I am a Comic-Con, seeing him at the Comic-Con floor, drink and draw, wherever we went, there was Felipe, mashing, drawing, talking about what he's up to, and that was San Diego, that was LA, in the aughts, and talk about. I just want to jump over there.
Yeah.
Hit Japan, and then
all right,
and then present day.
Yeah, and then present
we could
day.
do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when I started out in comics, the one thing I knew for sure is I didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. I refused it, not because I'm special, I'm so much better than everybody. No, it's just I wasn't interested in what was going on in comics, and we're talking. This is back in 2001. I came to LA from Chicago. Yeah, I came to make it in animation. Did a couple tests. They were like, "No, you're never gonna work in the industry."
Really?
Oh yeah. One of the tests I did, I actually work for that company right now. I did a test for Nickelodeon. I work at Nickelodeon. I do character designs for Nickelodeon's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
That's my full-time job. And then, my Marvel stuff with Ghost Rider is also full-time. I have 2 full-time jobs and I don't have a life. But my first test coming to LA was for Nickelodeon for Invader Zim. And that test was crazy because it was design 37 characters.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah. No, things have changed a lot since, dude.
Wow.
How many did you design? All 37?
Oh yeah, I stayed up all night. I did it, and I handed it off. And
did
then
they
it was
give you a week, or how long did they give you?
No, I did it overnight, dude.
But how long was the deadline? It was the next day.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's when I did it. I also,
But you're see what?
That's
what,
machine.
This dude is a machine, like literally a machine, a party machine and a work machine.
I seen him party too.
You did, right?
I saw him in Meltdown partying.
He's a hurricane, bro.
Oh.
That's my nickname for him. I might have drew a picture of you as a like you had
I wanna see that,
hurricane
man.
body, like
it was like Tasmanian Devil style.
yeah, hell yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing was, I didn't want to do any superhero stuff at the time at all. And the main reason was because I couldn't. Like there were no stories that were fictional or anything that I thought I could ever come up with to do that. But the one thing I realized was you write about what you know. And I knew about, the kind of struggles I was going through, just working minimum wage jobs at bars and postal centers and whatever. And so, yeah, I didn't want to do that. And I decided, the other thing is I did these tests and people were like, you're never going to work. And I didn't want to write for kids. I wanted to write for an older audience. So there was sexual content in the stuff that I did. There was violence. The dialogue wasn't like dialogue found in comics at the time. There was cursing. There was a lot of slang, vernacular, just people sounding the way they do on the street. And it's something that I paid close attention to. I think going back to our talk about culture, I noticed that right away when I came back to the States, is how like people within one city, which was Chicago at the time, depending on what area you were in, people spoke really differently. And when I got back to the States, like I was straight up standard English, textbook English. I knew no slang. I mean, now I sound like ridiculous. I mean, it's just the grossest, devolved into like the grossest kind of English you could listen to. But at the time, I remember going to Wendy's. I was going to tell you guys about that. So I went to this Wendy's.
Yeah.
And at that time, like I was 18, my hair was shorter. I didn't, like now my face, I got to shave twice a day if I want to be clean shaven at night to go out.
Right.
But at the time, I was like a squeaky clean 18-year-old, and I went into the Wendy's and I'm standing in line and like I was just overwhelmed by this menu. There's no Wendy's in Argentina. And I'm like, oh, they got square patties. And I was just like, whoa, this is a trip, man. The hamburgers are round. What is this? And like this lady's, she's sitting there and then she's like, what y'all want? And like, I had no idea what that was. She's like, well, what y'all what? She's like, what y'all want? And then I was like, oh, what do you all want? Is what she was saying. Right. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, and I was like, I haven't decided yet. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, I've yet to make my choice. Please wait, And she was like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from, I was born in Akron, Ohio, but I was raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And she's like, oh, where's that? You're cute. And I was like,
She was about to eat you up. You thought you were getting food, but you were about to get eaten up.
Dude, she could have folded me into a pretzel, dude. Like she looked very strong. So, yeah, at that time, like I was figuring out like people's lingo and what they were saying, And then, after living in Chicago for like a couple months, already I was learning all sorts of stuff. And then, went back home.
Was the gangs heavy back then?
Well, I lived, I had no idea that they were, and I just didn't know. Because, like anywhere you go somewhere else in the world that you're not familiar with, you're like, you take everything in and you're like, all right, well, I guess there's always trash everywhere, broken bottles and people just hanging out at all times of the day doing nothing. I was like, that's just Chicago. These guys are... Maybe it's their day off and they're all just hanging out on their porch, like just hanging out. I had no idea what was going on. Like all sorts of drugs were being sold on my block. And like, it was weird. We had like an old home in front of our building. And then 2 blocks down was like enemy gang territory. So like we lived between 2 gang areas. We were like right in the sweet spot. And as long as we didn't cross a certain street, we were fine and nothing happened. I didn't know that. But, we shared this, there's this house, and it was split. The landlord he split the house in half. So he rented half of the house, and he lived on the other house, and he just split the stairs into 2 doors.
Right.
And, like, we had a fence, or like a gate, like an iron kind of gate thing going around the building, and, like, it got crashed into twice by cars. Damn. Like, cars running away from other cars. And like, but I was all oblivious to this. I was going to art school. I was like skating downtown, doing skate videos and just being stupid. And then I come back. I'm like, oh, our apartment's destroyed. Like, what happened? Right. And like, you know, and you know, my roommate, I guess he thought I was, because he was from Chicago. He was from the West Side. Like basically the harder, rougher areas are the West Side and the South Side in Chicago. And I mean, like there was Cabrini Green, but that got cleared up. That doesn't exist anymore. That's like a big project.
Condos.
Yeah. But you know, when I was over there, I had no idea. And I remember one night, you know, I was hungry, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to that White Castle, I'm about to step out, and then my roommate's like, "Fuck, you going?" And I'm like, "I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get some food." He's like, "No, you're not. You better eat that white bread you got in the cupboard, man. You better eat that with some ketchup or something." I had nothing in the fridge. Like I was so broke. I paid $198 a month for rent.
Oh shit!
Like just so you have an idea where I lived.
Slum.
And I could barely make it because I went to school full time and we had studio classes, so they weren't like an hour and a half or 3 hours. They were like straight up 8 hours.
Right.
And then you had homework. You had to go back home and keep paying.
There was no part-time work.
Right. Yeah. So like I had a part-time job at registrars, but my checks were like $82. Like I barely made the rent. It was, dude, it was crazy.
So leaping forward, you're in LA.
Yeah.
You get turned down for your submissions to Nickelodeon.
Right.
Now what?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Sony, a couple different places, but they were like no go. And then at the time, I was really into like anime was kind of popping off. They had like Tsunami or whatever, like back in the day. Like I came back, but like that was like they had Big O and this is like 2001.
Big O's dope.
And Pokemon like had blown up. That was the point where like Pokemon and then it was Yu-Gi-Oh and the Digimon and everything Mon. Like it was all. And what happened to the studios was they were like, dude, yeah, man.
Yeah, man. That's funny.
They what happened was I'm gonna take offense now, man. I'm half Jamaican. You guys
that's
stop,
why
man.
I said it, man. We're trying to make you feel at home.
But what happened was these studios wised up and they're like, dude, these shows are done, and we can acquire these properties for pretty cheap, and then we got like 56 episodes that we can air for nothing. There's no production downtime. We don't have to pay anybody to make stuff. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to pay help for all these artists or anything. And so what happened was when I was looking for work in animation, all the studios were angry that they were getting laid off because of like the success of anime. And at least that's the impression I got, because whenever I went and showed my portfolio, which had more of a kind of a different style and more like kind of anime influenced, all the people looking at my work were like, "Oh, this is that anime shit. Like, we don't want that. We don't do that. We don't do that."
I found that you know I found that super interesting that like a lot of people like it's usually like the traditional like American animators, like the older generation, they despise anime.
Well, it's because a lot of people got laid off, and then all these like networks weren't creating their own stuff around that time. They were like, why do that? It's way cheaper to just do this. Kids like it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of at that time, like I think kids now that are into anime and whatever, and they're out of school and they're looking for work, perfectly fine. I'm on Turtles.
Yeah.
Plenty of those kids just grew up with anime and they like Dragon Ball and Naruto and all that stuff. And like, it's actually on our show specifically, Ninja Turtles, that's like a strength.
Yeah.
If it's an action show with comedy and stuff, but I mean, just doing the right shots and figuring those things out, which you learn from looking at anime.
And that's what I'm saying. Like anime, like I always thought like anime, they because it's like a lot of the popular shows were limited animation.
Right.
They spent a lot of time with dynamic compositions.
Exactly.
And if you study that stuff, I know now like all directors, they want your shots to be dynamic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And anime's been doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I never understood why did they look down on anime when it's really what you should be looking to make your show like that much iller. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the thing is, the animation is minimal and you got like those like moving mouth loops for talking and whatever. But I mean, that's just, those things are done on a budget. They have to be done really quickly.
Yeah.
And they just figure out, they choose their battles. They're like, well, let's make the shots be good. Let's make the storytelling good.
Exactly.
And then little details like, hey, these arms are flapping and you can tell it's like a cycle or whatever.
Right.
It doesn't really matter for that scene.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at the Disney tradition of animation, everything's, there's like
Fluid,
double
yeah,
and triple,
yeah.
Animation for
On
stuff.
ones,
and and it's fine. And I mean, I can see somebody who's really into like really bringing a character to life and breathing life through it with fluid animation. You look at anime and you're like, what is this? It's they're not even moving. Like you just a sidewards pan and with a flash of light and there's nothing.
Upshot.
Yeah, I mean, like Dragon Ball. If you look at the cartoon, I mean, that's the biggest example of that.
Yeah, it is.
It's just
But that is
for like
that is some hip hop shit though, because someone, an anime, they're not gonna be like, oh, we don't have the budget to do it.
You just do it. You make do with what you got.
Yeah, we're gonna make it work.
Japan's really good at doing
We're gonna
that.
tell our story, and that's awesome. I mean, I think what's really cool about your trajectory as a creator and as an artist was like that same ethic of I'm gonna make it work.
Oh yeah, you got to, man.
This is gonna get done. So
you gotta make that lemonade, dude. You get those lemons and it's on, dude.
How to make $1 out of 15 cents.
Oh yeah.
So talk to me, like some of your early work. It was mind blowing because you talked about Culver City as someone
That's where I reside right now.
of Argentina, Chicago,
Los Angeles.
Ended up writing and drawing about Culver City in particular, which was just genius to me. Just walk me through that phase of your life and get us to the point where you say, I'm going to Japan, guys.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing was, once I didn't get into any studio and started working at restaurants and postal centers and stuff, I went through like 8 months of not drawing anything because I had 2 jobs just to make rent. Yeah. And like they were both minimum wage. And, it was just like back to back. I'd go to Westwood for this Chinese restaurant. Then I'd ride the bus back, the number 12, that Blue Palms bus.
Yep.
I'd get off at National and there was a postal center on the corner and I would work there. And I lived like a block from there. So I'd go back and forth all day, every day. And that's when I decided like I need to draw for a living. Because, at least I could, take care of rent and everything. But I didn't have time to draw and I was going crazy, dude. I was messing up on the FedEx machine. Like I was doing like messed up transactions and canceling them so I could print out a sticker to draw on, dude. Like I was dying and I would just draw faces and I was like going nuts.
Do you have any of those?
It's probably somewhere, yeah.
I need to find those.
I keep
shits.
stuff.
You should put that up on like your Instagram or something.
Yeah, you know what I have? I have a box full of like sketches and like unseen like stuff. I'm just holding on to it for like a book at some point when like people really want to see it.
That shit
I'll have a
collects.
lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, well, and then I went to a Japanese bookstore. I went to that, what's the name of that? Nitsuwa Market on Venice. On Venice Boulevard.
Yeah.
I went there and then I saw like they had, now it's smaller.
Venison what?
Venison, it's not Overland. It's
No,
like,
I want to say national. It's not national.
not national either.
It's,
It had all that manga?
Oh, dude, yeah. Their section was way bigger back then. And like, it blew my mind. And I was like, oh, like I went crazy.
Yeah.
And I looked through everything. And then, and I was looking at stuff and I'm like, this person drew like 50 volumes of these 200-page graphic novels. Like, what? And then like my mind was completely blown. And the biggest thing was like most of this stuff didn't look like what we saw on TV as anime or what the comics we got. If you look at the comic, the manga, quote unquote, there's just comic books. But like if we look at Japanese comic books that made it out here, the first ones were Gunsmith Cats, Blade of the Immortal, Evangelion with Viz.
Yeah.
This is all like late 90s.
Did Lone Wolf and Cub in there?
Lone Wolf and Cub and what's the other one? Like Appleseed, that kind of stuff. That all looked like they were very specific styles that were like super anime.
Right.
The big eyes, a really clean line. Blade of the Immortal didn't. It was sketchier, but it was
Neither
like
was
samurai.
Lone Wolf.
So you're like, that's
Right.
Japanese. Like it's from Japan.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. Well, that's way later. That's way later. But Gunsmith Cats, that kind of stuff. What I looked at, man, like a lot of these comics looked like indie American comics drawn in Japan. It was all Japanese, but it was drawn by a Japanese person, but like the style was nothing like what you would consider being Japanese.
Nope.
And so many things. There was like Grappler Baki, which I thought was like ridiculously horribly drawn. I was like, what is this? And then it grows on you and you're like, man, this is genius.
Did you see the anime?
No, I want to. I've seen clips and stuff.
Me and Mike used to bug off that anime because he used to scream like Dragon Ball.
Oh, dude, yeah, of course, man. If you're fighting and you got like just the kind of muscles that don't exist on even a Mr. Olympia, dude, like, yeah, you got to scream. You got to let that heat out somehow, man. But once I saw that, I was like, yo, I need to do this. Like, I need to just write. And the other thing that I noticed was it wasn't people fighting. Like, it wasn't all Dragon Ball. It was like a lot of people sitting around talking.
Right.
And like just wearing suits and just drinking coffee and talking. And I'm like, well, you did a full series of people just talking? Like, these stories must be something because nobody's buying this to just look at drawings of people hanging out doing nothing. And that's when I decided, like, yo, like, I can write stories. It doesn't have to be fantasy or
about real life.
Yeah, I could just real life. I got plenty of stories, man. If you pay attention to your own life, man, there's so many comedic situations and fucked up shit, and you know. And so that's the kind of stuff I decided I needed to write.
You do such a great job with that shit in Peepo-Chu.
Thanks, man.
The contract killer dude. Is he from Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's Gil.
I remember. Yeah.
Giant guy.
Who is Milton inspired by? Like, what made you like?
All right,
really get that character?
Well, here's the big thing about Peepo-Chu. When I went to Japan to do that,
which is fucked up in its own right. I mean, how many American or
Western,
Argentine,
man?
right? Western,
no, just Western, just not
coming to Japan to do what they believe to be their
right.
shit.
Coming in the 90s, many. All right, I'm not gonna name people.
Yeah,
I know people. Yeah, there's people who've gone
this guy
and have boasted of going to do that, but then like nothing happened. But Westerners who have accomplished creating their own series that they've just did designs, drew, came up with a story and everything through the largest publisher in Japan, which is Kodansha. Just one,
right?
And that's me.
Hey,
Felipe Smith.
There
that's
you
it.
go.
To this day.
To this day. But listen. This is what you got to do to achieve that shit. This dude taught himself Japanese. Taught himself. Am I lying?
Yeah, no, I did because I figured
pre YouTube.
Yeah,
Wait,
man.
This is the type of cat we dealing with right now. Someone pour me some sake, please.
Yeah, I got you.
Here who wants the milk style? I got you.
It's the young man.
Well, yeah, I am the youngest here, so I should be pouring
about
for
to be
everybody.
the last drink on that one.
Is that gonna keep?
No, this got you. This is a full cup right here.
All right, that's for Mark.
I got you.
Like,
son. There you go. Boom. Perfect. Measured.
I barely taught myself English.
I know,
right?
I mean, how do you start learning Japanese?
I'm gonna be real clear about that. Like,
I remember you told me you taught yourself Japanese, and that shit just blew my fucking mind. So I was I'm not even gonna ask any more questions. But I want to know, how did you teach yourself?
No, this is the thing. Like, when a person's in need and in a desperate situation, that you're able to accomplish certain things. And at that point, I mean, I'd been publishing. I mean, I wanted to publish. I hadn't even published when I started, learning by myself. But
right.
I went to conventions. I showed them my work. I showed them the kind of stuff that I wanted to do. And they looked at my sample pages and they're like, fuck you, man. You're never going to publish anything. You got nudity. You got cursing. You got all sorts of gangster shit going on. People beating each other up and throwing up the dub. And they're like, this is not a comic book. Like, you should be just handcuffed and thrown in a cell for drawing this stuff. And the thing is, I'd seen what they did in Japan, and I was like, dude, anything goes. It was like an HBO show or like an X-rated, like a a rated R movie. And I was like, why aren't comics like that? If adults are more, or like there's more adult readers than kids at this point,
right?
Which was the case in early 2000s. I'm like, well, why isn't it written for adults then?
Did you ever get deterred? Like, oh man, maybe I should tone it down a little bit.
Hell no, man. Dude, no.
I love
that's that rock shit.
Yeah, right?
That's that Bad Brains. That's that Fishbone.
I love that.
That's that rock shit.
No, I mean, especially at that time. I mean, at that time I was 22, 23 years old. And I discovered something new, which was like a completely different way of telling these stories. I fell in love with black and white as well, because it gave the reader an opportunity to imagine what the color of these things were, and it made it more realistic, because it left more to the imagination of the reader. But the biggest thing was when I saw that, I felt like, hey, like I can do this. Like I can tell a story now. I remember I told you when I was in high school, I was like, no, let somebody else write, and I'll just draw. I'll do the fun part. And drawing is the fun part. I love drawing, but I realized after showing my work to a lot of publishers, and they were like, fuck no, like no, like I remember going to like I won't name the publisher. One thing I learned being older is that
don't name.
You don't throw shit all over the place and expect to be clean.
Exactly.
Like, you're not so like I'm gonna take it easy. But I showed my stuff to a couple of publishers, and they were like, "There's no fucking way." And I was told like, "You do what we tell you, and you'll have a job." And I was like, "Dude, hell no! Like I'll do it myself." Back then I was young enough to feel that way.
Yeah.
Right.
I think now, like sometimes you got to play ball. You don't have to change what you do.
Right.
But then
But
time
you got
is
to be
definitely
creative about it.
Yeah, exactly. So at the time I was like, no, I'm just doing me. Fuck it. I'll serve soju and change laser discs at a Japanese karaoke bar and do my own shit on the side. And when it's done, I'll put it out. And at that same time, I was like, yo, I'm going to learn. I mean, if all these American publishers don't want to do what I'm doing and they're not into it and they don't get it, I need to learn the language of the place where they're already doing it. And they're probably going to be more receptive to, just my mindset and the kind of work I want to put out. So I started teaching myself Japanese, but it wasn't because like I'm super smart or anything. It was just like I really wanted to do my stories. I still do. I was 23 at the time. I'm 37 right now. I still want to do my thing. I've got a lot of stories I want to tell. I enjoy doing it, and it's a lot of hard work. It's not like walk in the park. Like like you don't sleep. Sometimes you just like
How
you
much
lose your
time
mind.
out of the day are you studying Japanese? I mean that.
Oh, it's an all day, all the time thing. Like I remember I was going to this Chinese restaurant, and the manager, they spoke Chinese, and they're laughing at me, and they're like, "Well, you trying to be Japanese?" Like they're like, "Oh, you gotta straighten your hair out and you get a haircut." Like they're all talking shit. Like whatever. I needed that job, so I'm all taking it easy and laughing, dude. And they're like, "Oh," but then they stopped laughing at me when I could tell what the menu said in Chinese characters because some of the Japanese uses Chinese characters as well, which is the kanji. And I'm like, "Oh, this is plum wine," and they were like, "Fuck you! What? Like, how dare you?
How dare
read this,
you,
man?" Yeah, and then they were like, "Oh shit!" And the cool thing is, like, I think any endeavor, like, you pursue, the people around you are really important, and that's something like I always remember. And I mean that.
But Milton, who was Milton?
Milton, okay. Milton is every fan of Japanese culture, be it music, comics, anime, culture in general. Like, oh, I love the tea ceremonies, and I love any fan who's just enamored and fully in love with a culture that they only understand a minimal part of, a very superficial kind of minimal part of, is who Milton is.
I'm Milton.
And I think that speaks to so many people.
Hi, Milton.
I don't even know if you knew it at the time you were doing it.
That's what it was. It was for. I mean, it was the biggest thing about Peepo-Chu is that it's a book that addresses two audiences, a Western and an Eastern audience, and it was mainly for Americans and Japanese readers. And it's got, so far I've done varied casts. So there's Milton, who's a kid from Southside Chicago. And the other thing I've done always is like I've represented everybody in my books. So like Milton's a black kid from Southside Chicago. Then we got Jody, who's like nondescript. You don't know. He's toned light gray.
Right.
Kind of like some other characters I've drawn before. But basically you can assume that either he's mixed or he's something. He could be the other thing that you don't know.
Right.
Then there's Gil, who's the white owner from Westside Chicago, who besides owning a comic book store is an assassin for hire. And he's like 12 feet tall and like he's just a brick wall. And then you've got the side of Japan because Peepo-Chu starts in Chicago and Tokyo. And so the Tokyo side, you've got Morimoto Rockstar, who's an up-and-coming Yakuza young guy who loves American culture. And he's the counterpart of Milton. He's kind of the foil. Milton is this kid from Southside Chicago who loves this anime called Peepo-Chu. And he cosplays like that character, but only when he's downtown Chicago. He would never dare dress like that in his own neighborhood because he'd get his ass beat. So he's wearing White Sox gear and like trying to fit in with everyone else, which he hates because it's not his true self.
He looks like Eazy-E though. He has the Eazy-E.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like he wishes he was Japanese. All right. So you got this kid from Southside Chicago that wishes he was Japanese because he feels everybody around him will really understand him and be into the same things and just share the same Peepo-Chu experience with him. And I think, finding your place in life, I think it's something that at some point everybody kind of deals with.
Yeah.
Some people find it sooner than others. But that's one of the themes in Peepo-Chu. We've got Morimoto Rockstar, who's born and raised in Japan and used to be like an office worker. And one day, like somebody, grabs his girl at a bar and like he's scared, he doesn't know what to do. And then like he just loses it when this Yakuza guy, these two Yakuza guys that are like dangerous, and he's scared. And they like tear her blouse off. And then he just loses it and like just beats the shit out of them and stabs some chopsticks in their hands. And like he just gets crazy with it. Like he just gets wild. And then they're about to shoot him. And somebody like slices the hand that's holding the gun off. And then there's Aniki, who's his like older brother and like the Yakuza boss, who says, "Hey, I like your style, kid. You looking for a job?" So this guy becomes a Yakuza member. And then we've got another side of Japan, which is the Japanese schoolgirl. And there's two. There's Kawamori Reiko, who's actually a Gravia model. She's a model for weekly comic books in Japan. Usually Shonen Jump, all these, Bleach, Gantz, all these comics that kids read. That they don't know is that the cover, you barely ever see characters. You always see a girl in a bikini, really young girl, between 13 and 15 or 16. Different culture.
Yeah.
And those published, like those books are for like a younger audience. So she basically is one of those girls. She's got a killer body for her age. And she's very, chesty, which in Japan, that's not a very common thing. So she really stands out. So she's been like, recruited to be a model and everything. And so she doesn't like being objectified, but it's also Japan where it's kind of like, it's not seen the way it is maybe in Western culture where it's like, hey, I'm a woman and like, how dare you? Over there, it's like, well, yeah, I'm a woman and that's part of what, woman, I'm different from men in that respect. It's different. I mean, that's a whole other subject, but basically over there, that's kind of what it is. And there's this little nerdy girl that goes to school with her too. So basically I've got, a lot of different parts of society represented here and culturally. And so Milton is all the kids here that are like really into anime and video games and manga, but that are not as aware of what's going on in Japan. And I've also read, online and stuff in some reviews that they're like, well, Peepo-Chu's a little bit behind because now we have the internet and stuff. Yeah, when I was doing this, it wasn't the case. You couldn't read Shonen Jump the same day online. Yeah, right. You couldn't like find, torrent all your animes. You couldn't do any of that stuff. Right. And, this book came out in 2009, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, or 2000. Yeah, I went to Japan in 2008. Came out in 2009. This was done a long time ago. Even though people are just finding out about it right now in 2015.
Wow,
they need to come up with a term that you have before Christ, before internet.
Yeah,
right.
BI,
right?
How did the Japanese audience take Peepo-Chu?
That's funny. This is the one thing that most, I'd say 99% of Japanese Japanese comics creators have in common is that they're all Japanese. So when you grow up in the same culture as all your readers, and especially Japan, which is a homogenous society, most people have had the same experience growing up for the most part.
Right.
All right. They've gone to a certain kind of school. They've worn a certain kind of uniform. They've watched a certain kind of comedian on TV. They've eaten a certain kind of lunch that everybody's eating. It's the lunch your mom makes you, your obento with rice and a plum and this and that. You went to college, had the same experience. For the most part, every character, unless it's fantasy, has a name of someone you went to school with that had the same name. It's like a big shared experience in comics. So most people can pick up a comic and feel right at home and understand what's going on.
That's interesting.
Now for Peepo-Chu, not only is the writer of a different audience, of a different culture, different background, different ethnicity, different everything, country.
Everything.
The characters are also really varied. And even though Japanese comics have characters who are American or from Africa or from, the Middle Ages or they're dragons or whatever, they all tend to behave like Japanese people, regardless of whether they're like from planet Namek and they're Super Saiyans or whatever. No, they're Japanese cats, and they behave the way a Japanese person. They're ashamed by the same things. They're overjoyed by the same things,
Sexualized by the same things.
Yeah, exactly. But there's things that, an audience understands. And for me, I wanted these characters to feel and sound like American characters when they were. And the more challenging part was making them sound and feel like Japanese characters when they were as well. And that's where, like, I talked to my editor, and we have long, like, 4-hour talks about, like, no, that's not how a Japanese girl would react.
Yeah.
She would not be offended because, this and that and the other. And I'm like, well, what? But the thing is, it's also comic. So, just like Japanese people in comics high five and hug each other and do all sorts of things that people don't do in Japan in general. You don't hug your friends in Japan unless, like, you're trashed drinking, or they're really close friends from childhood, or you guys are just two kooky Japanese people.
Right.
That decide to do that, but for the most part, it's not a common thing. Yeah,
I love that word.
And same thing with like shaking hands and high fiving and stuff. By the way, you say high touch for high five in Japan. It's the high touch.
High touch.
But just that word in general, like touching, like a touching, someone else is not a big part.
Which is crazy because when you get on that train in Tokyo,
you do all sorts of things. Yeah,
touch
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Shit was violation.
Let me jump. Let me teleport again. There's a part of volume 1, Peepo-Chu. I think the chapter is named like Nasty Vacation.
Oh yeah.
And like this is one part of Peepo-Chu where I'm reading. I have like small children like in the other room, and I'm like, I can never let them see this ever again
Until they're 18.
Yeah, well, yeah,
not even.
Yeah, not
Like,
even. It might be like 25. Yeah.
Once they have their own kids, they can read it.
And it's funny. I went back when we were getting ready for this interview. I went back and looked for my Peepo-Chu. I realized I put them out of the house.
Did you?
Like, wow, it's like they're in your trunk. They're like out in the garage.
I will say I have mine on the top shelf.
Okay.
Unreachable.
Oh man, I've gotten
Solid
texts from
choice,
people,
yeah.
like friends who got it, and they're like on the way back from the convention on the train or the airplane, and they're like, "Dude, this is the hardest thing to read in public." Like I'm like looking over my shoulder, making sure people don't see me reading your shit. Yeah,
but we're enjoying it because it's not just like just guilty pleasure. Like even though there's that element of it.
Those are some nice boobies.
I think. I mean,
can I say that?
Do you remember?
You did your homework on boobies.
I wonder how you got that. How'd you get that influence? No, what was really cool is that you have this highly sexualized, highly charged, chapter,
right?
And you have Jody, who's the character, who's kind of like. He's a little bit of studio gangster in him,
right?
But he's telling the story of his conquest.
Yeah. All right,
that was great.
And then at the same time, he's telling the story, and you're seeing the conquests. There's like these little word bubbles, or maybe even thought bubbles, and you don't even know. That says like I'm a loser,
right? Yeah,
and he's
killing it.
He's
though,
bragging on it.
Yeah.
It is the quintessential expression.
Yo, you know what?
Lying on your dick.
You know what?
Encapsulated in one chapter.
That shit
of Peepo-Chu.
That shit is the J. Cole song.
Mm-hmm.
You know the J. Cole song that they playing like fucking 100 times a day on the radio right now.
Right.
Talking about
now you want my little man.
Yeah. He's talking about having sex for the first time, but he's bragging to the girl like he's a pro or whatever.
He killed it.
But he killed it, but he never had sex before.
Right.
Someone should do a mashup with that shit, with that song and those images.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Find an editor and tell him to do that shit. That shit will go viral, bro.
Yeah. There you go.
And I just give me a piece. That's it.
Weren't you asking for a piece last time?
I'm always asking for a piece, Adam.
Hey, man, it's a good business sense right there. Dude.
Man, everything with this guy is a piece.
Yup. You damn right.
Be careful, Felipe. Man. He's coming after your piece.
No, man.
Pause.
Oh, that's a great.
Awesome hip hop shit.
Yeah, man. So, yeah. The thing about that scene is that, like, as I said before, none of my stuff is gratuitous. No matter how sexualized it is, no matter how violent, no matter how nonsensical it may seem, it's always a planned moment that is character development.
Right.
Or it's leading up to something that's going to happen maybe in the next book or even in the next chapter. It's not, never read anything I do and think, oh, yeah, this guy's just being an asshole. Never. And no matter how crazy it may seem, the biggest thing I'd like for my readers to expect is that if they see something that's highly entertaining and might seem nonsensical, be ready to see where it's coming from.
Yo, that's
a very important thing.
That's the art study stuff you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything's got to have a purpose. It can't be some BS nonsense. It's got to have some feeling, some reason behind it.
Right.
Otherwise, you're getting your F.
Exactly. And I think the most entertaining stuff is when it's just like, comes from left field and you're like, what is this? But the thing is, if you trust the person that's crafting this, you're like, I can't wait to see what
payoff.
This is. Yeah. Like,
that's
that's entertaining because you're like, whoa, like now on the other hand, if you have all these crazy things, like I want to use Lost, the TV show, as an example. We're throwing so many things and we're like, oh man, this show is the best. And for me personally, at first I was like, I couldn't wait to see where this polar bear came from and where all these things happened. And then eventually more and more craziness got thrown at you, but nothing ever got explained. And by the time you got to like the third season, you're like, maybe the writers don't know where it's going. They're throwing these stuff that seems like, it's tantalizing you and like exciting you. But then they're like, I don't know where to go with this.
I was out after season 3.
Yeah.
I was out.
That's the point where you realize they're just doing stuff and like you might never find out.
But it lasted 5 seasons.
But your shit is not like that.
No,
I try my best not to ever do that, A lot of times, just from writing stuff now and seeing and also talking to other creators, it's important to know when to, put down the breadcrumbs and kind of lay a path for the reader, and have these Easter eggs and stuff. And the more you can plan ahead, the better. Sometimes things change. You plan for something, and then as different dynamics start taking place in your storyline and other characters kind of do their thing, you're like, whoa, you know what? What if instead of this guy doing this, we have this other guy do this? Mm-hmm. And then so sometimes, things like come out of nowhere that are way better. But it's always good to know when to plant a seed that could be something. So sometimes for the most part, you try to plant it the most possible, but you also need to, timing wise, you need to know.
Right.
And this is one thing I learned from my editor in Japan. He would say, well, this is a great moment for something to happen to this effect. We need something that's mysterious here. And he's like, I'll leave that up to you, but it's like, this is the moment to do it.
Right.
And it was great. And sometimes you know what it is. For the most part, you want to know what it is. You don't want to just leave it to chance later and be like, and then have some nonsense. But
and then in defense of the Lost guys, that was the beginning of the golden age of television. So they threw a bunch of crazy stuff out there. And in real time,
right? Yeah.
We're trying to create this story with a machine moving behind them of hundreds and hundreds of people. So by the time, the tail of the whip came around, it was a hard lash. And they don't get a free pass, but there was actually a Twitter beef with some of the guys from the Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Because they threw Lost under the bus, like we're not gonna pull a Lost. And Damon Lindelof, friend of Meltdown, full disclosure.
Yeah.
Damon Lindelof said, I didn't have 3 books or 7 books.
Yeah.
And, an unlimited time to come up with my story. I'm sorry that I fucked up. Like, I've already taken my mea culpa. Like,
also, I didn't have a Lost to look upon and see what not to do.
Right.
Because they were doing their thing at the time. I completely understand that. And I'm not, listen, I'm just saying, like, I watched it. Actually, later on, I watched everything, and that's a different story. But I think Lost and the way comics are made in Japan are very similar.
Really?
Yeah. And if you talk to like a lot of the really prolific and popular creators in Japan, a lot of them will tell you, I don't know where this is going. So their game is doing it on the fly. Mm-hmm. And the best ones, they do it that way. It's not only is it spontaneous, and this is the hard thing about making comics in Japan. And I think the better you are and the more just naturally these things come out for you as a creator. Like, I think the people who do it really well, they kind of have something where they just have a feeling that they're like, I'm going to do this. And it works. And they also have an audience that's in tune with like their sensibilities.
Right.
That's a very important part. Because these are weekly series, man. I was doing mine was
It's
monthly,
like a comic strip.
and it was between 40 and 60 pages depending on the chapter every month. But these guys are doing 18 pages a week every week for years on end.
You mean this shit? What you were doing right
No,
here?
mine was monthly. Luckily, I would have died in Japan.
You got you got really sick though.
No, I did. I'm still recuperating from those 4 years
Wow.
because I sat
Still got
18
sick.
hours a day in one place drawing. Listen, I scripted, wrote.
Did they
that's the
bring
same
someone
thing.
in there to give you a massage after a while?
The company didn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like they and also assistants. This is one thing for kids who are kids or adults too who might want to do manga and whatever. The publisher doesn't provide you with an army of assistants to do stuff. You have to pay them out of your own pocket. So manga is a royalty based job. So the more books you have on the shelf, the more income you get. But when you first start out, you don't have any royalties at all because you have no books out. So, and the page rates are way lower than they are in the States.
I wonder if that's because of the caste system that, Japan comes from. You know what I'm saying?
The assistants?
No, just the ways things are structured, I mean, you read back, or I read back in what Japan society was like, and there was definitely the higher class, the lower class, the peasants, this and that and the other. Do you think that applied to how?
Like to this, I mean, this day there's no real class. There's ranks in terms of like your position professionally, and also age. And I mean, you got your kohai senpai thing where like you guys are all older than me, and even if you might be like
slow down there.
Hold up,
young buck.
There's the thing. Even if you may be like 1 or 2 years older than me, which is the case too,
Right.
that already makes you an adult compared to me. And so like we were talking about, we're drinking sake right now. Technically, I should be pouring sake for all you guys and making sure your glass is never empty.
Well,
that's just what it is.
I've
been failing
you failed,
miserably.
bro. I've been waiting for a segue for pour some sake.
Yeah.
Someone pour some sake.
I got you. But that's the way it works, So hierarchy-wise, no. You definitely pay your dues. Oh, I gotta take that cap off before you pour it, right? Like, what's going on?
Slipping, youngster.
All right. There you go. Sumimasen. I'm sorry. There you go. So
I'll take one too.
There you go, sir.
Word.
Dozo.
What do we say?
Arigato.
Arigato. Or you could just say domo.
Domo.
All right, youngster. And of course, I pour my own because I'm the youngest.
Do you pour your own? If you're
unless an older guy is like being cool, but
I'm cool.
I'm cool too.
Don't believe that.
Well, also as a younger kid, you don't want to.
I know. No, my kids don't tell me that.
You don't want to have the older guys be bothered to serve you, so you're like, daijoubu, I'll do it myself.
All right.
So anyway, we're talking about what were we talking about?
I mean, you're just kind of spitting about the process in Japan.
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's on the fly, man.
Yeah.
And like you sit down, you have these meetings. I was doing everything, and I could only afford to pay my assistant for 7 days out of the month to help me on the monthly. And I would usually do stuff that was like, backgrounds or whatever, and I'd give him photos to work off of or just directly trace, so I knew what it was going to look like in the end. And I would do all the characters, the story, and all the inking, and then he would help me with the toning. But once you're like have series out and you're popular, now you can afford to pay these guys your page rate. So you're not getting paid a page rate by the publisher. Sometimes you're actually paying money out of your own pocket for everybody, waiting for your royalties. The thing is, in Japan, you can become a millionaire off of a series, literally off of like 2 or 3 volumes. You're buying houses already. That doesn't happen here in the States. It's starting to happen now with independent stuff.
Did you buy a house off of what you did?
No, man. What I did afford to do was pitch for 2 years straight, living in Tokyo, one of the most expensive cities in the world, without pay, because you don't get paid for your pitching process. So the last 2 years I was in Japan, I was pitching a new series. I pitched 5 different series. Only the last one got accepted. The whole time I wasn't being paid, and I was spending money like crazy. I depleted my savings for the first 2 years, but I was able to be there another 2 years. I thought I didn't want to go back before, I thought, okay, the next series I get, because it's pretty demoralizing when you're working your ass off, working 18 hours a day, nothing gets accepted. I've got over 600 or 700 pages of thumbnails and stuff, and character designs, and just general like Bible, like comic book, like Bible, different stuff. I brought it back with me, and like some of it I'm using. Eventually,
That stuff is always evergreen, bro.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I learned, like
No
stuff,
doubt.
once you create it, that shit doesn't go away.
No, not at all. And you can always use story points
Yeah.
and characters and stuff
Yep.
for other stuff. Eventually, one of them got accepted.
Yeah.
And I thought, as much as I was just feeling down and just feeling like, man, do I suck this much that nothing gets accepted? Eventually, I thought, well, as soon as they accept something, then I'll have all my strength back and I'll keep going. And the opposite happened. Like, they accepted my fifth pitch. They were like, いや、これは面白いだと思います。これからも頑張りましょう. And they're like, this seems like it's interesting. Let's do it. And then I realized, like, dude, can I be here another 4 years working like this?
Fuck.
Having 3 days off a month? Like, when people are like, oh, we're going to do this, like, they don't realize, like, the logistics of making comics on a monthly or weekly basis. I mean, weekly is even worse because you got to draw 18 page, you got to publish 18 pages a week. You have 7 days. 4 of them are usually spent figuring out the story with your editor because they'll be like, no, that's not interesting enough. And they've had decades and decades and decades of comics where they're like, no, that's been done before. Like, let's try a different angle. So you only have 3 days to do 18 pages. And, that's where the assistants come in. And I mean, I've done a lot of pages. I mean, my record is 12 pages in 1 day, just penciled and inked, not fully toned. But that was just the worst. I didn't sleep, and the pages look. I mean, they're fine. They're in Peepo-Chu 1, but I hate them. But I had to do it.
Wow, you can't really tell the difference.
That's great.
I don't know if that's good or a bad thing.
Probably a little of both, man.
Yeah.
You probably the memory of those pages probably.
What's messed up?
Hasn't left you.
There's pages I look at that I didn't remember drawing when I started toning them because I was like half asleep. Yeah, like I was delirious. Like I was just drinking. They got all sorts of energy drinks to keep you awake in Japan. Like just some serious like crack drink. It's crazy.
Crack.
Like no,
you gotta bring that here,
yo,
bro.
no, I'm serious.
I just want a piece.
That's the next podcast.
Crack drink.
Now you're on to something.
Now we're gonna make some money.
Crack
Figures
drank.
you want a piece. One of these episodes, you're gonna make some money, Mark.
That's got
I'm
America written all over.
I'm trying.
No need to come up with a name.
I think there is a crack drink. Oh, somebody.
There was a
posted.
cocaine, wasn't there? There's like
No.
that energy drink called cocaine, and they pulled it off the shelves.
No, it was in. I think it was in. You know Ron Wimberly?
Yeah.
He posted something on Instagram that said crack drink, and he was like, "This."
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was like, "This would never." It was crack drink or crack something. He was like, "This would never work in America." I was like, "It might work."
Oh yeah, man.
With the right
Marketing,
campaign,
man. Yeah.
Maybe we
No
could
doubt.
advertise that here on the hip hop.
This show has been brought to you by Crack Drink.
Stay up for 3 days in a row to meet your deadline.
Meet your deadlines.
But you could
Crack Drink.
you could produce some good ass shit.
Absolutely.
I mean, we got
so you
or at least speedily. I don't know how good
You
it's
might
gonna
not
be.
remember
Yeah,
it.
You might not remember it.
You know what? You're a little hard on yourself.
Series number 5 out of
Yeah, 5. Yeah, the 5th one.
right. The 5th one
Yeah.
gets pitched, and you say,
Yeah,
I'm tapping out.
I was like, yo, I realized, I'm like, well, man, I'm going to have to live like this for who knows how long. The other thing is this. There's no really written contracts in Japan. They're all like word contracts, and they keep their promises, and like they're very different from us. People here, unless it's in signing, they're like, well, fuck you, I didn't say that. Like, over there, like they really like take pride in keeping their word. And so the flip side of that is if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Doesn't matter if like, you're getting sick or like you got a headache or you're stressed. Just do your shit, and it has to be on time. And they'll cancel your series if it's not on time. Like it's a big thing. I mean, I did 750 pages of original content in a year and a half. 753 graphic novels.
Wow.
Over here, monthly comics are 20 pages. Half the time, because it's assembly line style, you either just write or just pencil or just ink or just color or just letter. But over there you do everything. You're like a one-man show for the most part. There's art and writer teams too, just like here. But so you just do it, just Nike style. Just do it.
So
that's it.
Can I ask you how long? Like, what was the longest period of time you stayed up? Like, how many days?
3 days
in a row.
Yeah,
I think I've done 3.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You start hallucinating.
Yeah, your hearing's all off, and like
you see shit on your peripheral,
and then you look, and it's not good.
Oh, that's mush.
Also, man, disclaimer here, like I think a lot of people, I see this a lot. All right, like sometimes on Tumblr, I post this thing that says like, it's like, hey, for shout out to everybody who can't go to sleep because they got to draw tonight. Like, let's do it. And it's just like a crappy drawing of me, like, yeah, like fucking do it. And like people repost the shit out of that. And
the one with you crying and shit when you.
That's
drawing?
another one. I got 3.
I was gonna repost that one.
Yeah, like what I noticed though, man, is like a lot of artists, and a lot of kids in school, they responded to that. They're like, yeah, man, and they usually like they'll holler. I'm usually like, yo, roll call, shout out, and they'll repost and type like, yo, I'm not drawing, but I got a math test, dude. People are staying up doing shit, and like it's good to know that other people are in that grind with you.
Yeah.
Like I got another one where I'm looking happier. That's one time I drank some coffee.
Seen that one.
All right, I'll show you.
But
man.
you have the big coffee like mug?
It's a drawing where I'm just like, oh, like I'm just cheesing and looking like a maniac.
I did see that one.
And it's like, yo, like if you're in the fight, you're not the only one. Like
Right.
let's fucking do this. This coffee's working. And that one also gets reposted. There's one of me crying. And
I seen
that
that one.
Yeah, that one's like
That was late.
All right,
yeah,
so
and that one they also repost that one. They're like, don't worry, dog. Like,
What's your Tumblr? What's your Tumblr? For
my
all the
Tumblr
Tumblrs
is
out
Felipe
there?
Felipe Smith Art is my Tumblr.
So is Peepo-Chu done?
Well, it ends on a kind of a cliffhanger. Thematically, I did kind of tie everything in semi-neat bows in terms of like what's going on, but there is a cliffhanger, and it's definitely there's room for the story to continue, and I'd like to at some point. The thing is, I need to do a couple things in between, and I also need to have some time away from what I've experienced in Japan because I want the next story to come from a different perspective.
But you've been away.
I've been away for 3 years now. That's not enough. Not at all. Not at all.
All right.
The other thing is, just for the story to be interesting and definitely a departure from the last 3 volumes. I was telling a story about characters where myself as a writer, I had more experience in them and I could understand things that they did not. Because none of these American characters who go to Japan speak Japanese, really.
Right.
Milton thinks he does because he learned this from this anime called Peepo-Chu, but it's all wrong and it's gibberish. Right. And the company subtitled it completely wrong. Which is basically reference to kids who want to learn Japanese through anime. Unfortunately, just so you know how it is, for the most part, you learning Japanese through anime is like Japanese people learning how to speak English
through Sesame Street?
Through like listening to Goofy and Mickey and like people don't talk like that in Japan. They don't. Like they're like like dude, people don't sound like your favorite cartoons in Japan. They don't.
Right.
And if you talk like that, they will look at you with the biggest face of disgust. They won't smack you because they're not very confrontational and they respect others, no matter how fucked up they may be. But they will be very disapproving in their own mild-mannered way about your like, like that's cartoons. That's not Japanese. So Milton learned it the hard way because he thought he was learning Japanese through Peepo-Chu, and he was learning gibberish, and a lot of it sounded really offensive in Japanese in the book.
Right.
But that was a reference to that.
So you brought it out.
Yeah. Like a lot of stuff I did in there. Jody, they tell him like, hey, you're going to be a superstar in Japan. Right. A lot of foreigners, they tell him, oh, when you go to Japan, you're going to stand out and you're going to be, the talk of the town. And you're going to, and for the most part, I mean, it's still pretty homogenous.
Right.
It's just like, I think people paint a picture of Japan over here that sometimes might not be what you see over there. And everybody's experience as a foreigner in Japan is very different. And some people have way better time than others. I think most foreigners don't go to Japan to work for a Japanese company, so that in itself will make things very different for you.
Yeah.
You won't have as many societal pressures as a Japanese person will.
Yeah, you definitely had that.
But I did.
So you've been back for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's still not enough distance.
Well, what I was getting at is that for if the continuation of the story, I want these characters to be closer to my knowledge of the country and the culture to make the story interesting. Because the whole like, I'm a fish out of water, I don't know what's going on. I did that in Peepo-Chu. Now it needs to be like the next step. Hey, I'm a Westerner, but I know what's going on over there.
So would it be Peepo-Chu 4? I mean, would you continue the series or would you do a whole new thing?
Well, I mean, it's set up for there could be a 4. The thing is, some of these characters will have cameos in something I'm developing right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Is this a private piece? What's this?
Yeah, it's going to be self-published, and right now it's just in the works. It's basically what, something got accepted in Japan, and then I realized as I was developing it that it was going to work way better for a Western audience, because what happens when you write for a Japanese audience is you have to tailor things to their tastes and what they're used to. So that changes a lot. It changes your product. And for me, the themes and the overall genre and a lot of the things that would make this, kind of like a powerful story that's entertaining, I thought was best left untouched. And I mean, I think a Western audience right away off the bat would know what's going on, where for a Japanese audience, I would have to do a lot of explaining and kind of tailoring, which I didn't want to do.
Nice. Quantum leaping forward. So cool. Just the first pages of Ghost Rider.
Oh.
yeah. I mean, that's amazing, because you just jumped, because it's 3 years back in America, and now we're talking Ghost Rider.
Right.
I mean, this is an iconic Marvel brand, right?
All I needed was like 5 pages, and I'm like,
But
in.
this is
I'm in.
but for some, this is Nick Cage on a motorcycle. This is Johnny Storm. This is
or Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze. This is Method Man.
Right.
So
I talked to Method Man, right?
No. I don't know.
Oh, hey, that's some hip hop stuff for you.
That is. I want to hear that shit, because that is what you did. You flipped the fucking script. I mean, you brought something to Mark. This is what I was getting at earlier in the show, is that you were doing shit with Peepo-Chu on your own. Right. I mean, that was raw. That was, I'm unencumbered by anything else.
Well, I won't say that, because I was working with Kodansha, which is like the biggest publisher over there. So they've definitely have their guidelines, and
those dudes are pornographic.
Well, I mean, but this is the thing.
Okay.
They might be more lenient on sexual content, but not so much on violence. Where in the States, Western comics are fine with violence. They're not so much. And I have very violent stuff in Peepo-Chu where I had to edit it for the monthly book, but then when the books came out, they changed it, which is something that most people wouldn't know. I didn't know when I got there.
Right.
They were like, "Whoa, there's some guy that gets eviscerated and he's sitting on a toilet handcuffed, and he's been cut up and really he's been carved like a Thanksgiving turkey."
Right.
Disemboweled.
And they carved words into his chest. I mean, it's like really, gruesome, and again, not gratuitous. I mean, we're talking about Morimoto Rockstar. He's like a psychopath, What's that? But I didn't know that. I saw Fist of the North Star and all this stuff, and I'm like, you guys are insane with the gore,
Yeah.
And right there. And so my editor was like, whoa, dude. Well, no, it isn't. It isn't, because then we know what he's capable of. Right. And we know he's a psychotic. Like, dude, right after that page, his boss, the Yakuza boss, is like, "What the hell's wrong with you? Like, why did you do that? That's not how we operate. The Yakuza, we're not butchers. We don't fuck people up."
Right.
And he's just like, that's what they do in the States. Like, his whole thing is, we got to be cool like the States.
Right.
But
either way, though, you are dealing with some pressures there.
Right.
But you come back to America and you work on what I think, at the time you started working with Marvel was when they had been bought by Disney.
Right. Yeah.
So we are concerned.
Right.
As America.
Oh, of course. And as comic book readers too, right? You're like, what's going to happen to Wolverine and all this stuff?
You're about to fuck up Ghost Rider.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I was really happy about. It sounds strange now, but this is the thing. I really like what we've done with All New Ghost Rider with Robbie Reyes and the artists I worked with developing it, I wanted to write and draw it, but I had a full-time job at Nick doing Ninja Turtles character design. Right. So I wasn't able to draw it, and it's the first time I ever worked with other artists.
How cool was that?
What, Turtles or
no, just Ghost Rider working with another artist.
Well,
how'd you get that shit first?
Truthfully, all right, my editor, my current editor called me up and he sent me an email. He's like, "Hey, I've got something cool that I think you'd be great for. Let me know if you're interested. Hit me up with an email." I'm like, "Oh shit, all right, cool, Marvel, that's cool, And that 10 years ago, I'd worked with that editor on my first series. So we knew each other, you know, and it was very briefly because after that he moved to Marvel. So he kind of set up my contract and we kind of came up with the property and then he left for Marvel. And, you know, 10 years later, he's like, hey man, like I got something, you know, like let's talk. So he called me up. I had just been promoted to character designer on Turtles. I was working in the storyboard department doing revisions and I was stoked to design characters. And then he called me and he's like, hey man, you want to work on some stuff? And I'm like, oh shit, like I wish this would have happened like months earlier before I had this job. But I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I thought, how the hell am I going to do that? Because that's like a full-time commitment to do comics also, you know, which, you know, I thought I was going to draw it too, you know, and I assumed I was going to draw it too because until then I had never done anything other than my own stuff that I wrote and drew. So when he hit me up, he's like, yeah, you know, like we want to do Ghost Rider. And then I thought, oh, Ghost Rider? Like Ghost Rider was a shit to me when I was in junior high. Like, yo, like that's like, you know, and that was the Danny Ketch 90s Ghost Rider where he was like crossing over with Wolverine, Punisher, Spider-Man, Venom, like you name it. Like Ghost Rider was the shit in the 90s. They're making toys, like it was cool. But then, you know, here come the Nick Cage movies, which, you know, some of the stuff looked really cool, but like they, you know, fans of Ghost Rider didn't really like it that much.
Right, they didn't respond.
And then it kind of, you know,
kind of fell flat.
It fell flat, and then Ghost Rider just kind of had like tries to, you know, like kind of research mini, like almost like trying to
but
research,
never
but
successful.
Yeah, and you know, so I thought about it, I'm like, man, but the biggest thing was, you know, Ghost Rider, everything's been done with it, and like it's like it doesn't seem like people are responding to it, and you know, and as a creator, you want to do something different. You're like, well, how can I make it like, how can I switch it or turn, you know, do something different, and then he's like, yeah, well, you know, we want you to do a new one. And I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, well, this is the thing. Like, there's 2 stipulations. And I'm like, all right. And they're like, he has to be younger. And I was like, all right, that's cool.
That's easy.
And he's like, we want a younger audience. And I'm like, I'm cool with that too. And they're like, and he has to drive a car.
What? They came up with that
yes,
idea?
Yes, my editor, Mark Panicha, came up with that. And dude, he loves cars. He's had muscle cars before and stuff. Mind you, he didn't tell me what type of car or anything. He just said he has to drive a car.
Yo,
and actually,
props to them because
dude,
I thought that was you.
No. Now, the choice of the car, that 69 Dodge Charger with the blower, that's me.
All right, well, props to you for that. But, I mean, the fact is that they actually even said we're trying to go in that direction.
Dude, well, my editor loves cars, and he, as I said before, he's had a lot of muscle cars. I mean, he's partial to the Corvette. That's his thing. But I thought about it, and I'm like, well, it has to be kind of like a quintessential muscle car. It doesn't have to be a pretty, flashy car. It just has to be like a sturdy, like, I'm going to fuck you up car.
Right.
And the thing about the 69 Dodge Charger, you know, it was the Dukes of Hazzard, it was Bullet, it was Fast and the Furious. More recently, we've seen it, but it's a car that's just been on TV. It's kind of tried and true and design-wise too, and I like it. It looks a little bit tougher than like a Challenger, you know. Also Dodge, tougher than a Camaro. The 69 Dodge Charger doesn't have like exposed lights. They flip out, you know, but it's like it got this grill and it's just square and it's got a nice shape, you know. So, and I love the Dukes of Hazzard as a kid. I mean, you just make that car black and, you know, you switch it up. But the whole thing that he wanted, you know, a younger guy was cool too, because the biggest thing that comics need right now is you need to grow the audience, not only in terms of age demographic, which for the most part, it's still more adults that read it. You know, you also want, you know, more women reading comics, and you want to diversify what you're doing.
And you want minorities.
You want minorities. You want everybody to read it. And like the biggest thing with this, which I'm really proud of, is just from what I'm seeing on Twitter and Tumblr, is we have a lot of female readers that love all new Ghost Rider. Who my whole thing with Ghost Riders, girls, it wasn't something they were really into. I don't think. And like now, you know, with Robbie, you know, we kind of, you know, we're doing something that people are enjoying. Yeah. So once they gave me those guidelines, I was like, all right, let's do it. And it's sake time over here.
Thank you, sir.
Say it the American way.
Yeah.
Sake, you want some?
We got to work after
sake.
this.
Right.
Yeah,
sake.
But yeah, once they gave me that, then I started, and I decided I didn't want it to be East Coast. You know, Ghost Riders for the most part have been Midwest or East Coast.
Right.
And you know, I live in LA, and I've always enjoyed, you know, setting up my stories here in LA. So, and I figured, all right, let's make it East LA. They said, hey, you know, he can be any ethnicity you want. They just said like roll with it, do whatever you want. And I thought about it. I'm like, well, if it's gonna be car themed, and it's gonna have kind of like a Fast and the Furious kind of like twist to it, which is what's going on right now. It's not so much motorcycles that people are into as much as cars.
Right.
And those movies are kind of doing really well too. And these are all things
killing.
You know, there's certain things that you pay attention to in entertainment wise, and see what the trends are and what people are into. You don't have to be a slave to what's selling, which I think a lot of times companies are like, well, this is the next best thing, so we've got to copy it. No, you don't have to do that. But you do, in my opinion, you have to pay attention to it and see what is it exactly about this that's doing well. And what can we do that hits the same notes, but at the same time is different? So I didn't go with like your souped up like Hondas and Hyundais and like all your like Nissans. I didn't do that. That's Fast and Furious. I went with like classic muscle because I wanted the character to stick around. I didn't want it to be a fad. You know, that 69 Dodge Charger is going nowhere.
Right.
You can listen to this podcast like 15, 20, 30 years from now. That car's still going to be hot as hell.
There it
That's
is.
not going to change. But maybe like a like a Skyline or something from like 2015 is going to be bullshit 15 years from now. But that Dodge Charger isn't going anywhere. So, and black's a classic color, you know, chrome, same thing, you know.
Yeah.
So, and then I thought, all right, well, you know, if you're going to look at all the kids that I saw that were into cars out here in LA, especially when I worked at the karaoke, they were either Asian or Hispanic. And they'd come out here, they'd bring their cars out, and they had like, dude, they had sound systems in the car that were like more expensive than the car itself. Right. They'd have a Honda Civic that cost them, I don't know, like 20 grand or something. Their sound system's like 30 grand. Like it was crazy, dude.
You're tapping into a culture that's as deep, you know, as comic culture, you know, and
as deep as hip hop.
As deep as hip hop.
Yeah.
So it's like
it's a subculture.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I went with it, and then I figured, well, you know, like growing up in Latin America and Argentina, I figured, you know, I mean, I lived in Japan, and I know, you know, Asian culture, at least on the Japanese side. But I figured, you know, to write a character really confidently and know like exactly the way he needs to think and how he needs to, you know, react to situations and whatever, I figured Robbie Reyes would be Latino. And at the same time,
Kings.
And at the same time, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want him to be a walking stereotype, you know, like, oh, well, and he's in a lowrider, he's got a shaved head, and he's got a tank top, he's wearing lokes, and, you know, like, you know, like all that kind
Chinos.
of stuff. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, I wanted it to be
Cortez's.
Dickies.
Yeah, Nike Cortez, Dickies, and whatever, which we have. We have those people in our comic too. And they're part of the setting. They're part of the neighborhood. They're part of what Robbie grew up around. But I wanted Robbie to be kind of a black sheep in his neighborhood. So instead of, you know, 60, you know, like a 74 Impala or something like that, like a lowrider, you know, he's in a muscle car.
Right.
You know, he wears skinny jeans and like leather jackets, and he's got, you know, a little dyed lock in his hair, and he's kind of a pretty boy. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like he doesn't fit in with the crowd that he grew up around, but like that's him. You know, that's part of his own personality and his own character. And so, you know, I got to kind of do this. The cool thing about Marvel, you know, so far working with them, we've done 12 issues of All New Ghost Rider, which I wrote all of them. I got to draw 1.5 issues near the end. I wrote issue 11 and I wrote and drew issue 11 and wrote and drew half of issue 12. But I also worked with Trad Moore, who's he's doing Luther Strode right now. He did those books, and he, you know, we worked together to do the first 5 issues. Then I worked with Damian Scott to do 6 through 10. And then I did 11 myself, and then Chris Anka helped me out. We tag teamed issue 12 because we had some deadline stuff going on. And it looks great because Chris is really good at, like, he's a very good draftsman, and he's good at, like, picking up on the sensibilities of whatever artist. He's done that before where he's had to, like, help somebody out with a couple pages. Right. And he knows how to, like, you know, adhere to kind of their style and do something good. Also, I think Chris and I kind of have similar sensibilities. We like the same kind of stuff, and we kind of, you know, draw things in a similar manner sometimes. So I think it worked really well. And then after that, we had Ghost Racers, which we just finished issue 4 on Friday. Wow. And it's a Secret Wars title. Takes place in Battle World. Wow. And it's basically Death Race meets Spirits of Vengeance meets Grindhouse. And it's basically a death race with all the Ghost Riders that have ever existed. You know, Johnny Blaze, Danny Ketch, Alejandra Blaze, Kenshiro Blaze. Zero Cochran, that Ghost Rider 2099, that like mechanical one, the cyborg guy. Then we got, you know, then we got guys that, you know, that they had this little guy, what was his name, Knuckles O'Shaughnessy, little tiny like guy from the 20s. Yeah. Like, are you here? You know, and like we put him in there. Then there was like there's a shark writing Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider's had its ups and downs story-wise.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, this is an opinion thing.
Right.
A lot of people loved that run where there was like 1 billion Ghost Riders and there was an army of Ghost Riders. But I think the important thing is the more Ghost Riders you have, the less importance everyone gets because it's like, well, anybody's a Ghost Rider. You know, how many Spirits of Vengeance are there? Like, what's going on? So I tried to like, you know, pay homage to like all the, you know, all the stuff that fans of Ghost Riders like, and also, you know, kind of guide things. We redesigned stuff. Like the original Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, was around the time of Evil Knievel. And he had like this high collared like jumpsuit.
So let's jump into Method Man conversation.
Oh yeah.
Right here before
right.
we have to go.
Okay.
And,
so
and let you get back to work.
I'd been up all night working on this stuff and like I crashed out. I had to work at Nick and I crashed out at like 7 and I had to be at work at 10. So I got like 3 hours. I stayed overnight. And
3 hours is a good night.
And by the way, this is our connect. I believe this is our connect segment.
Segment.
Connect.
Word.
Politic did.
So like you know, I get a call and like, you know, my editor knows that I start at 10. So like anything before 10, it's like me trying to get sleep. My editor isn't getting a lot of sleep either. Like he's really busy and stuff too. So he gets it. I get a phone call and it's like, you know, it's 9. I'm like, dude, this is like, I need like, you know, 3 hours at least. So I'm like, okay, I'll call him back at 10, you know. And it goes up again, you know. So I listen to the message and he's like, hey, he's like, you know, give me a call. You know, I need to talk to you about something. And I thought, oh, fuck. Like, did they send something to print wrong? Like, did they mess up like the dialogue or did we send some wrong files out? So I call back. I'm like, hey, man, everything cool? Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I got somebody who wants to talk to you. So I'm like, all right. And like, man, I had not slept. Like, I was like on 2 hours of sleep. And, you know, and they're like, hey, yo, what's up? And I'm like, who's this? He's like, yo, it's a fellow Smith, you know, just trying to give you props on a job well done. And I'm like, all right. And like, I don't even know what's going on. I'm like, all right, yeah. He's like, yo, it's Method Man.
What?
And I'm like, what? He's like, oh, shit. You know, like, oh, man. Like, dude, I was super tired. You know, man, like you had like 2 hours of sleep. Like, I didn't know what was going on. You know, and he's like, yeah, fellow Smith, and you know, he's Clifford Smith, you know, but I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, who's this? Do I know you? Like, are you an editor at Marvel, you know? And, you know, because he was talking like, you know, like we know each other, you know?
Fellow Smith.
Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, man, shit. He's like, yeah, I like what you're doing, man. I like your boy Robbie Reyes.
Yeah.
You know, I've been reading your stuff. Yeah. I'm like, oh, man. He's like, yeah.
He's a big comic book
fan. Yeah, I mean, shit, his moniker, you know? So, you know, Johnny Blaze, I mean, that Blaze got a different reference too, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, shit. He's like, yeah, man, I like what you're doing, man. You keep doing that stuff, man. You know, it's looking good. You know, and I was like, oh, man, thanks a lot. He's like, yeah. And then, like, you know, that was it. That was a phone call. But, like, I wish I would have been more awake to, because, I think my response was kind of like, that's cool. Thanks. You know, I wasn't like, yo, dude, what? Like, you know, it's kind of like
playing it cool.
What's that? So yeah, I rarely ever play.
So
it cool
Method Man,
that's kind of not my style, dude.
Right. So Method Man, if you're listening,
yeah, man, thanks, dude. Thanks for reading and supporting, and definitely thanks for the phone call. I even got a photo of him holding my variant cover for issue 2 of All New Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, he's cool. I mean, he likes comics. He likes Ghost Rider definitely, and I don't know. You know, maybe one day we'll collaborate on something. You know, that could be a possibility for sure.
Ghostface is doing comics.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think Method Man's done some stuff in comics too. You know,
I did.
Sanford Green did some shit with him.
So I mean, you know, it's a thing. That's a cool thing though. You know, when you know, like artists of different disciplines, you know, collaborate to do stuff. You have it in animation too.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's always a good thing. You know, I think a combination of disciplines will create, you know, like a really like, you know, exciting project.
Artists respect other artists, even if if something different, you know, different lane. If it's art versus music, like we still have that artist outlook on, you know, your outlook on life, you know, and you connect in that way.
Oh, for sure, man. And it's a grind. It's a grind no matter what, you know.
So, hey, Felipe, real quick though, did you work with DMC?
Yeah, I did.
Oh shit! Right?
Yeah.
That from Run DMC.
That's right. Yeah. Daryl McDaniels.
What'd you do with that?
I did a couple covers for DMC the comic, and I did a chapter in DMC #1.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
Because he's big into comics right now.
Oh yeah, no, he loves it. He's like, I mean, he's been big into comics ever since like back in the day, man. Like that was kind of you know, he always says he's got great stories, man. You listen to him. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
You listen to him talking.
I'm the cool
I mean,
old guy right now.
that was yeah. You're the cool old guy that doesn't play. Yeah. No, he always says, man. Like you know, he was kind of like a shy, kind of mild mannered, kind of geeky kid that was into comics and stuff, but like when he had to get up on stage, you know, he had to like turn into a superhero persona to really get out there and rock the crowd. And he's like, "Yo, I'm DMC." You know, and that was his thing.
Right.
And
he had an alter ego.
Yeah.
Rappers got alter egos too.
Hell yeah.
And that's the thing. Johnny Blaze and a damn thing changed. You know,
Yeah.
to
Tony Stark.
Starks.
Yeah.
Even Slick Rick.
To MF motherfucking Doom.
Yeah, MF Doom. Hell yeah.
Exactly. Rappers
man.
have alter egos too.
Felipe was the dude who put me onto the DMC book.
Nice.
Because they was looking for other
Yeah,
artists,
man.
remember?
Yeah.
There it
Yeah.
is.
He was
Yeah,
like,
dude.
hit up the twins.
Connect gang.
Hell yeah,
Connect
man. Like, hey,
gang.
you know anybody who can
Pop,
rock
bing,
this?
bing,
I'm like,
connect,
fuck yeah,
ditto.
dude. What?
There it is.
Forgot about
Beautiful. So,
that shit. Sponsored by Sake.
It's like,
Yeah. Sponsored by Sake.
we're gonna wrap it up so we can go to work tomorrow.
But
All right.
can I ask one question?
You can.
All right. Felipe.
You just did.
I did ask you a
Yeah,
question.
that's
My
that's
second
slide.
question is, Felipe, top 5 MCs.
Oh man, see, this is where I'm gonna say stuff that, like I'm gonna sound like somebody who knows exactly what I know, which is nothing. All right.
How about top of your top 5 MCs?
Yeah.
Which one is the wild card? Give us your wild card.
Wild card, man. I don't
Who's
know,
your
man.
Wild card.
This is the thing.
Lyricist,
Like for
top
me, man,
lyricist.
my favorite was always Tupac. And the thing is, Tupac's like standard now.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to him, that's before he died, man. I came to the States in 96, 96, and he had that Hit 'Em Up album. And like I couldn't afford to buy a full album, so I went to like the Walgreens like CD thing. It was like $4.99. And it had that track, Hit 'Em Up, where he's like, Biggie, I fucked your wife, you all gonna die of sickle cell anemia, you fucking weak ass motherfucker.
That was against Mobb
You know?
Deep too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. He was like,
Right?
he was just like, you know, just
He was going at everybody.
he was like going at everybody. And I remember sitting there with my cousin. We were drawing, just sketching stuff out. I was drawing some shit. And I'm like, man, can you say that on the radio and shit? Like, I'm like, man, somebody's going to come at this dude. Like, you're going to kill him. I remember saying that, dude. And, you know, my cousin's like, like, he didn't really care. And then, yeah, like, it was a matter of months. Yeah. And he died, you know? Also remember seeing him on, I don't know if it was the MTV Awards. He came up on stage with Tupac. And I'm like, with Snoop. I'm like, how tiny is Tupac?
Right.
But it's like, nah, Snoop's like...
Snoop
like,
is
what,
huge.
Yeah, Snoop's tall.
Yeah, he's like 6'5" or something.
He's 6 and change.
Yeah. So like, I was like, what? Like it just looked crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, then that happened. And like now it's like, you know, if you say, it almost seems like, you say you like Tupac, it's like, yeah, whatever. Like I like peanut butter and jelly.
It's
who does
like
that?
picking
Yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Jordan.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Michael
Like, I
Jordan.
like Michael Jordan, yeah.
But there's a reason why people pick Michael Jordan.
Right,
He's
exactly.
a fucking man.
Exactly. Same thing with Tupac. Yo, man, you guys remember a guy named, what was his name? Capadonna?
Yeah.
Oh, from
Absolutely.
Wu-Tang.
And
He was on
wait,
the family.
no, wait, that's not. All right. Wait, it's a cat dude. He was in a war with some other dude, and then like he fucking disappeared. And I'm talking like this is like late 90s.
You're thinking about Cannabis.
Cannabis, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
man, I thought Cannabis was ill as shit.
He
Dude.
was.
Cannabis still came out with albums.
He was. Cannabis was dope. There was a line, Slaughterhouse, Joel Ortiz says, don't act like Cano wasn't a savage. Like he paid,
Right.
even
What
though,
happened to that
even
dude,
though
man?
he's on
He
Eminem's
still
label.
came out. He still has stuff.
Is he doing stuff?
Yes.
Why did he?
But
why is
yeah,
that?
and the
Because
big,
he
it
got
was him and
lyrical.
LL. It was him and LL.
He
Right.
went against the machine.
LL's mama said no.
Oh, he fucked
LL
up
crushed
LL.
him.
Yeah,
he stepped
exactly,
on him.
yeah.
But dude, is that
Crushed him.
it? Then people are
No.
like, well, that's it. You're done.
He had
Well,
this. He had
That
this
was
thing-
that age of hip hop where you could get done
Yeah.
in a battle. It wasn't even about the personal shit.
No.
Like,
Oh,
you
right.
know, I had sex with your baby moms.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
it was just like, I ruined you. on wax.
He didn't say I had sex with your baby mom.
Nah, that was
fucked your
different.
wife
That was-
is what he said. That sounds a lot worse, dude.
No, I'm thinking about Nas, Jay-Z.
Oh, okay.
You know?
I'm talking about Tupac just getting way too real on that track, dude. Like, you know,
Tupac had no
claim
chill.
to be a player, but I fucked your wife.
Yeah, exactly.
No chill.
I know. I was mad at Faith for
No,
that. shit.
Cannabis,
man,
Cannabis kept on coming out with stuff. He did
He did.
an album with Stoop from Jedi Mind
He
Tricks.
did.
Yeah.
All right.
He did a song
Yeah.
called Poet Laureate, which is a
Cannabis
while back.
had bars,
Right.
bro.
But this guy rapped for like 11 minutes
He
Yeah,
straight.
man.
fucking
I just
ass
No,
work,
but
man.
you're right.
All right,
I mean,
so that's,
in
that's
the
bad on me for not like
Yeah.
keeping up and looking out
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
stuff that I care
No,
about.
he still comes up. He was a little
All
Four
right.
Horsemen
Yeah.
with
Yep.
Razzcast, I
Yep.
think, and a few others.
I remember,
two
I
others.
like back in school, I listened. Dude, I was down.
Cannabis
Oh,
was the
yeah.
fucking man
Yeah.
at one point.
Yeah.
Like his bars, he was like pre-Eminem.
Okay, we got a wild
Mhm.
card. We
Got a wild card.
No, I
Can
think
I bust?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, favorite hip hop album of all time, Felipe Smith.
I like the
All
Chronic, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, shit, you
Yeah,
can't
man.
fuck with that.
Oh, but Doggy Style is good too. I like Snoop,
Snoop's
man.
dope. Snoop's dope.
Oh no, Westside Connection.
Oh,
Fucking-
shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm
No,
not
that's
down,
that's
bro.
Fingers too twisted in the
yeah,
middle.
No, that's
Two
my
West
album.
Coast,
Love
bro.
it.
You know.
Love
Worldwide
Two
West
West Side.
Side.
me too.
Worldwide
Love
West
it.
Side. Westside Connection.
Damn.
That's
In this-
yeah.
I
You
respect
Dub
guys-
it.
C, Mac 10,
I
Ice
respect
Cube.
it, too.
I respect
That's
it.
my album. I
Yeah.
take it back. No,
Okay.
East
Not the
Coasters
Chronic.
have we're real particular about. shit
Yeah,
like
we
that.
are. I
Man,
mean,
4 fingers up, 2 twisted in the middle.
I get it.
Oh,
You
no,
know.
I also like
You can't
Naughty by
really go
Nature,
wrong.
man.
There you
Brand-
go.
I like
Brand-
all that boom bap stuff. All of it.
Yeah.
Brando Calrissian.
He got the KRS-One shirt. Adam got the shirt on right now.
Oh, you
with
go.
a Dapper Dan outfit on.
Classic. Where'd you get that shirt, bro?
You eclectic, man. That's,
man,
that's
I'm
good.
telling you, I-
you eclectic with some heavy West Coast
Who you talking?
gangster.
You talking Felipe
influence.
right
Felipe,
now?
yeah.
Calrissians, he's in Sky City right now.
Yeah.
He happy with that shit. He's like, yes.
No, I gotta say though, I definitely lean West hard
Yeah.
for
That's
sure.
good. We need
Yeah, I do,
West
I do.
Coast.
No, I
we
do.
need West Coast.
I respect it.
And Dub C is a underrated,
Yeah, he is.
underrated
like-
lyrical
Yeah.
assassin.
I mean, I must say, dude, early stuff, 90s, like
Westside
Yeah,
Connect.
I like-
Even
East
Dub
Coast
C
is-
in the
I
Mad
like-
Circle stuff before West Coast.
Also,
Connection was-
East Siders with the Snoop's
Snoop,
East
yep.
Siders. I like that too.
Yep.
dude.
You on anything now, Felipe?
Dude, I haven't listened to. Man, what am I even listening to? Dude, I don't. You know what's fucked up, dude?
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear.
Yeah, like I don't listen to music that often.
Really?
That is
and
fucked
this is
up.
why it
You
is.
draw?
It is. When I draw, I listen to like shows.
Really?
What shows?
Like any show where it's people talking, they move the story through dialogue, so I can keep drawing and not have to look.
Mhm.
That's
You
what
listen-
I do because
you
you know what
listen-
happens with music.
Like what show?
like Seinfeld.
Oh man, anything from like right now I'm watching El Cartel. It's like some Colombian show about like the drug cartel after Escobar went down. Dude, it's like a soap opera, but just people get
shit.
killed constantly. It's not the best show, but
you
like
listen
I can
to
listen to it.
podcasts?
I don't listen to podcasts because
You
they.
need to listen to on
No,
some hip hop
hip-hop
shit.
shit.
I listen to that.
Word up.
But dude, anything from The Office to
Slipping.
like Sopranos to The Wire.
You can watch
Shield.
The
A
Wire.
Wire
You
is
can
the
listen.
shit.
You can listen to The Wire and not look at it.
Well, when people are getting
He'd
fucked
probably
up,
watch
I'll
it like
watch
5
but
times.
He's
but
like
also
this.
I've seen The Wire. I've seen The Wire like
That's
seven
the shit
times.
right
we
there.
was, we was just talking about The Wire today at work. The Wire is my all-time favorite show.
Me too. Except I'm about
That's
to
my
say,
dude right here.
I'm about to say one thing. I love The Wire, but if Game of Thrones goes 6 seasons,
See, I gotta catch up on Game of Thrones.
it might be Game of Thrones. But right now, Wire's top.
I gotta say, my tops is Sopranos. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
Oh, that's the shit.
Yep.
Yo, because that's a show that like you know we're talking about.
We
like,
could do a whole
certain-
pod
like,
on
dude,
this. Y'all know that, right?
Those
We
characters.
Yeah.
The Wire's okay. The Wire and the Shield, right? I like
Yeah.
both of them.
Right.
They got like similar themes.
Right.
The city, how things are run, corruption, people like struggling to make it, the side of the law and being off the side of the law and everything. But The Wire sometimes it hurts.
The Wire is.
Cause
The
it's
Wire's
real?
tough. It's tough. No, because you know stuff in the Shield is real too. The Shield is more. It's not bubblegum, but compared to The Wire, it's like the easier side of the rough stuff.
Right.
The Wire like cuts you deep sometimes.
It does.
It takes people away from you that you don't want. the Shield does it, but right at the last minute.
Yeah.
So you're having a great time with all these guys. They're fucking busting heads, doing what it takes to do the right thing. Sometimes doing it wrong, and then near the end, it gets really real. Where The Wire just like it stabs you right away.
It just stabs you.
You just
leaking through the whole episode.
Yeah, the whole episode, the whole season, the whole series. You're like, oh man, it's a great show. Mm-hmm. It's just like it gets you down sometimes, man. It's just like fuck,
it's rugged, man.
Hey,
it's
man,
good. It's good.
When Omar left, it was all sadness.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I mean, what a
Omar's
fucking
a great
character.
character, man.
Like if this is a spoiler, if you fucks didn't watch The Wire, I don't care. Omar,
pure disrespect. If you don't have to see
listen,
it, man.
Turn your shit down.
Omar got popped in the head by a little kid.
Oh man, what are you doing? Spoilers up.
That's what I said. Well, I said if
But you need to
didn't watch
watch
it.
it right
to watch
now.
it.
Yeah.
Did you not see it?
Man.
You didn't see that part?
I saw it. I feel
Okay, that's
sorry
what I'm
for
saying.
whoever
No.
didn't. and
If
was
you didn't
planning
catch
to.
up, well, it's too bad for you.
Right. But you're down with The Sopranos. Right.
Oh, I love it. I think
So
it's
that's
got
your
really
shit.
really good character development, great dialogue, and those characters feel like real characters, and they grow. They grow season to
They
season.
grow.
You go back and you watch the show, and you can tell that's Tony or that's like Meadow or like Paulie from like years ago. No, it's really good. I think
That's a genius way, actually, to really analyze a show by not even watching it and just listening.
By
to
listening
it.
to it, that's real. That's real
So
shit.
there's something there. I can't really.
I gotta listen to
even
music all
offer an
day, bro.
opinion. Yeah.
See, music after a while it just puts me to sleep, man.
Different shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, dude, you guys were outraged when I said that. Most people are. They're like, man, fuck you. You don't listen to music?
Right.
I got it in the morning. I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm awake.
Oh,
Like by the time I'm running out of batteries, I need some kind of
I'm
chatter.
talk
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah.
I'm talk radio
Oh,
right
yeah?
now. On the ride to work,
Yeah.
I'm talk radio.
You listen to NPR or anything like that?
You listen to
Shit, I
Stern?
listen to Howard
Are you-
Stern.
This is the only dude
Yeah.
from Cincinnati by way of Long Island.
That's actually where my mom grew up.
Oh, how did I just...
There you go.
You
Man, that's
threw
why.
your phone
You
out
felt
like
the vibe, dude.
100%.
What part of Long Island?
Great Neck.
Okay,
it
it's
is.
deep.
Yeah, well, that's my mom.
Yeah.
But I'm Cincinnati, then to LA. But
Yeah.
Brando Calrissian, you fucking nailed me, man.
we were wide on some hip
All
hop
right.
shit.
So, hey,
Cheers,
so
fellas.
seriously, cheers.
Yeah, we didn't cheers, man.
Cheers.
We
This
did
is
it now,
a
man.
wild
Salute.
cheers.
Yes.
This has been fucking amazing.
Illuminating. And
Illuminati.
we will do it again.
Illuminati wants your mind, soul, and your body.
Yeah.
Always remember that shit. You guys got the Illuminati symbol right here. I didn't say anything. I'm just joking. I'm just fucking around. Sorry, man. It's the sake. Sake.
So, Felipe,
Yes.
you come back?
Oh, I'd love to, man. You guys, if you guys are gonna have me and not be
Yeah.
like, man, forget this guy. I'll come back, dude.
man.
No, because we got more shit to talk about with you.
Definitely. I think we
Oh, there's
gotta-
always stories, man. There's
Yo,
always
this
stories.
guy, man, this guy has stories for days.
Yeah.
We had some great off the record stories.
Oh
Bro.
yeah, man. Well, dude, we've known each other for a long time, man.
Yeah, we did.
We met like more than 10 years ago. We met
Yeah.
in like 2004,
Right. We were mad Comic-Con.
3, 4. Yeah.
See, this guy just came up and just started talking to me like he knew me. I was like,
who's this fool?
I was like, this
should I hit
And then
him?
he showed. Nah, it was all love. It was mad peace, and I was like, oh, this dude's cool. And he showed me his artwork. I was like, yeah, this shit is dope.
Well, I'd seen the Blockhead stuff, and I was
Right,
like,
yeah.
yo, but these are those guys.
But then to see this guy like
These are the Mad Twins, son.
There you go.
Dreadlock Mad Twins.
Right,
up in
my
there.
shit
No more dreads
No, man.
on the twins.
Yeah, man.
Felipe
man.
keeping it.
I'm
Yeah,
bad.
you know,
I'm Babylon.
somebody, you know,
Yeah,
when they
hey.
going back out, I'll cut them. You know, we'll keep it going back. and forth.
Represent for everybody.
but listen, my son got dreads down
Okay,
down.
okay.
his
Ah, there
back.
you go.
He does.
Next
Yeah, man.
generation.
Yeah, next I had to pass it on. But Felipe, like it was 2 Comic-Cons in a row.
Oh, I remember. And then like I was with my girlfriend at
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
You guys had those figures out,
Yep,
and I got
yep.
them. Dude, I was so broke.
Did you buy them?
Yeah, man.
You
yeah.
did?
Yeah.
You need
Shout
a
out to
sign.
Yeah. Well, especially, dude, Essence, man.
Nice.
For my girl, dude. She
Essence,
loved it. She had
right.
the little Adidas and that pink. She had a pink jacket.
That made
and
your whole trip.
Oh, dude, no,
Your
I was
girl
so
was happy?
dude. Yeah, she loved it. I was like, yo, I got you.
That's class.
I'm gonna eat some pretzels now. Oh man, dude, I was so broke when I met you guys, man. Shit.
All right.
You
Well,
was just there kicking it. We was just kicking it, bro.
Yeah, dude.
We was kicking it.
No, man, that's good times, dude.
Yeah,
That's
good
amazing.
spirit. And then I ran into you. I know
You guys,
about to cut it.
we gonna carry this.
Hold on.
Like, you guys can talk by yourselves. Like, shut up already, man.
Hold on. What's that Mexican fucking restaurant? The fast food one.
Which one?
The one in
The one on Venice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it's called.
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna talk about Chabalita.
No, it's not Chabalita. It's the fucking
What, Tito's Tacos, dude?
Nah. It's like the
I
chain.
love
It's the
Tito's
chain one.
Tacos. Yeah, no.
I saw this guy head.
Oh, what, Baja Fresh?
Yeah,
dude?
Baja Fresh. There you go.
That's also on Venice.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Culver
yeah.
City.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Shout out to Culver
All right.
City.
All right.
On that note.
We'll keep reminiscing off
Yes, we will.
mic,
Off
man.
air.
On that note, Culver City, stand up. Just west of Compton.
Just west of Compton.
What, isn't that northwest of Compton?
Just northwest of Compton.
Just
you
east of
forgot
Venice
the
Beach.
north part.
A lot of the
exactly.
East Coast is gonna be like, oh man, it's not that far, huh?
No,
right. It's a miles away.
Right. It's a long ways away, but it's,
Dude, I used to ride my skateboard to Venice Beach. It took like 2 hours,
Word.
dude.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, dude, I had no ride, man.
City of Culver.
That is hard.
I want to hear that story next time.
On some hip hop shit.
Word.
This was good, guys.
Felipe, where can we check you out? How do we stay in contact?
Oh, yeah.
What do we know? What do we need to know?
All right. Follow me on Tumblr. It's Felipe, Felipe Smith Art. The Tumblr. And then Felipe Tweeters, Felipe TWEE
You
TERS.
sure?
Yeah, Felipe Tweeters. Just look me up, man.
All
There's
right.
some other Felipe Smith from Brazil, man. Forget that guy, man. Some guy just tripping on LSD.
Taking your name?
Became huge. Yeah, dude. I was holding it down on Google. Now this LSD freak is like taking over. But anyway, you find me on Twitter. Yeah. And also hashtag Felipe Smith, like the real Felipe Smith for
Word.
me. Let people know what's up.
That's when you know when you're successful. You have to
Yeah.
put the real Felipe Smith.
Yeah. But yeah, check me out. I get on that. I post drawings like new art. I try to do it daily. I let people know what I'm doing. I don't usually tweet like, "Hey, I ate a cool hamburger." Like, I don't do nonsense like that. I just this is coming out. Check out all new Ghost Rider. Check out Ghost Racers, or I got a book coming out, or whatever. I'll let you know that stuff. And then if I have an interview or a podcast like this one right now, or anything like that, or a signing, that's usually what I tweet. So I'm not wasting your time like this guy again. I also retweet anything you talk about what I'm doing though.
Cool.
I really enjoy. I really appreciate the support. So I'll always retweet your tweets about.
Give me that Twitter
what I'm doing.
handle again.
Felipe Tweeters.
Felipe Tweeters.
Yeah.
Is it got a blue check mark next to it?
Oh, the official like Felipe.
Yeah,
Smith.
yeah.
I don't know how to do that. I should.
Yeah.
I'm the most official. There's also there's also a Harvard doctor named Felipe Smith. You know what I thought, man? I got a Spanish name and an English last name. I'm like, yo, I got this.
Right.
What other Felipe Smiths? They're like, you're Felipe? You should be like Rodriguez or something. Smith, you should be like John or something. No, like I'm like, I got it. And no, there's plenty. Yeah. So like, but I'm the one that's working the hardest. So.
Yeah, he's telling the truth.
There it is. Other Felipe Smiths fall back.
Yes. Mark, my man.
Yes, sir.
How can we check you out?
Mad Twins at Instagram and the Facebook.
Yeah. Give them the Mad Twin spellings.
MADTWIINZ.
Z.
Double
Z.
I and a
On
Z.
some hip hop shit.
There it is.
You know,
All right.
Blockheads. Check the Blockheads too. Spelling is BLOKHEDZ. Very, very hip hop shit or very young shit.
Yeah.
And that's coming out again. You guys are doing that
Yeah,
stuff.
we
again.
working on that shit right now.
Dude, Blockheads is the shit, man.
Yeah, man.
Yo,
we working on it, bro.
I met Blockheads before I met them, and I was like, yes. Who's doing this?
Heads from the
Yo.
block.
Heads from the block, bro.
On that note.
Brando Calrissian,
Yes.
any last words?
Keep it funky.
All right.
Keep it dirty.
This is Adam. I'm here with Mason Booker, the engineer, sleeping in the joint. This guy, we kept him up late tonight. Meltdown Comics and Collectibles, Hollywood, California. Thank you for listening. Peace.
Peace.
This episode of On Some Hip Hop Shit was produced by Brandon Schultz and Adam Silverstein, engineered by Mason Booker, and recorded at the Meltcast Podcast Studios, Hollywood, California.
They got street legends.
Our theme was produced by King Smo of the Animal Crackers, and a special thanks to Francisco, Gaston, Mark, and Mike Davis. Artwork by Self Uno. Tweet to us at our brand new handle @OnSomeHipHop Shit, and that is what's up.